Okay, we can call the meeting to order. Tonight's special meeting for the Complete Streets Committee in Altos. We've got 6:06. All right. Arch, you get one?
Yeah. At the roll. Commissioner Banerjee,
Present.
Commissioner Venkataraman, Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Vice Chair Walker,
Here.
Commissioner Katz. Commissioner Steiner, not here. Chair Cummings.
Here.
We have one.
Okay, great. Let's do the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have a special meeting tonight. Thanks everyone for being here. And we have one big discussion item, so we can jump right in, and that's the fiscal year 24-25 annual street resurfacing projects list. And we're going to go through the key items on the list and talk through some of the details. City staff is going to give us an update on each of the proposals, I believe.
When was that? Almonte or?
Yeah, we're starting from Almonte.
Uh,
Actually.
Or.
Okay, so we don't have any public comments or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
It's not on the agenda.
We would ask for, okay, if there's anyone tonight who has anything that they want to discuss in public comment or anything that is not on the
Actually,
agenda.
Chair, it's actually not allowed during the special.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
that's what we don't have it, that's what we don't have it on.
Never mind.
Yeah, yeah, so next week, next week.
Okay.
My mistake.
Then come next week, next Wednesday, and we can talk about it. Okay, so tonight you can just jump into the main topic.
Actually, let me share everything that's on mine. You see?
Yeah.
You make it bigger?
Yes.
Try. If I do
Let me get my business glasses on.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay. Okay. It's, the agenda's available online too, if you have your phones or, iPhones. It's still tiny.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Sorry.
Okay, based on comments from the Complete Street Commission, last week, the commission requested us to try to figure out a way to have a continuous bike lane through Cuesta to connect onto the existing bike lane on the other side of Almonte. Staff has gone back on numerous different ways to try to provide a bike lane, a dedicated bike lane, but existing travel lane, it's already at the minimum. Existing is only 11 feet. We cannot narrow it any further. Just to let you know, both the left turn and the through lane already has a bicycle sensor on it. The right turn does not. So for us to go ahead and provide a bike lane on the right turn, who wants to go straight, will have a conflict movement with the vehicles turning right. Just to let you know, one of my comments to the consultant is the two sharrows that you're seeing right there on the close to the intersection. Those two has to be removed because starting this year, there was a law that was passed stating that if you have a road that's going faster than 25 miles per hour, you cannot show sharrow at those locations. So those has to be removed. So what the intent is basically is to go ahead, and my comments to the consultant is the straight and the left turn lane close to where the sensor is located at, to go ahead and put green stripes there so that the bicyclist is able to go ahead and park and go ahead and proceed straight. So we're going to go ahead and place a bike lane indicator from the through lane to the existing bike lane that is on the other side of the road past Cuesta. So that would provide a path of direction for a bicyclist. So that's the only modification we have from the last design. We are continuing on with a dedicated bike lane We are trying to provide as much buffer between the travel lane and the bike lane itself. The existing El Monte is only 10 foot wide, which is the absolute minimum standard per Caltrans. So that is as narrow as we could possibly get. By doing that, it allows us to have possibly a 2 foot buffer with a 5 foot, dedicated bike lane at that location along El Monte. As you can tell for the lower half, when you're going through the intersections, through the various side streets, we went ahead and updated the plans to show that we have, broken green line to show that the bicyclist is crossing at those locations. So we're trying to make it as visible as much as possible. Does anybody have any questions about this page?
All right. Can you go over again what you told, that isn't on the drawing, that you told the consultant to do with the intersection of Cuesta and Almonte?
So right now, these two lanes has sensors for bicyclists. So if you were to stop a bicycle there, there are sensors.
Just straight ahead. Gotcha.
Correct. Already has an existing sensors on the pavement itself. So if a bicyclist is stopped at this location, the magnetic sensor is able to detect that and has an ability to change the light. So full knowing that bicyclist is going to want to stop here, there's going to be a green stripe to show that bicyclists can be in this lane, to show that they could go up to that lane. And from here to this bike lane here is going to be green striped so that it shows a dedicated direction where they need to go to get back on the bike lane.
Through the,
Through the intersection.
and what about the part where the bike lane ends up to that?
We cannot show Cheryl at this location because per California law, if a road is posted for more than 25 miles per hour, we cannot put a
So
Cheryl.
is your proposal to have nothing there for bicycles?
We cannot put anything there.
So what about what's being done on El Camino at the right hand
If
turn
you
where
look-
they're doing the green?
If you
slash?
look at El Camino, I've been out there multiple times. This is the same design that I'm using for that. The-
No. There's intersections on El Camino that have green slashes throughout the travel lane.
That was only if it was a driveway that they went ahead and put that, let me pull up the plans.
That's El Monte, this one.
Yes, ma'am.
That's only 2 lanes.
Right to left on Monte, yeah.
So if Caltrans doesn't allow us to have, I'll ask my question another way. If Caltrans doesn't allow us to have those sharrows in there, do they allow us to have green diagonal striping through that entire
Yes.
right-hand turn?
But it's not Caltrans that's not allowing it, it's the law that was passed by the.
Yes,
So-
but is there a law that prohibits us from having green slashes through that?
No, but at the same time, for us to go and show all that, it's one thing if it is to allow, if it is a continuous lane, and there's a merger that's going on. Concern is by placing stripes there, there's gonna be some sort of a conflict that we are condoning. I understand what you're saying, Commissioner, but at the same time, I cannot rightfully put what you're asking me to put. Because to me, in my professional opinion, that would cause conflict for bicyclists.
The conflict is there whether you put the markings there or not.
Correct, but at the
The
same time,
bicyclist is gonna wanna go to the through lane from the right-hand curve.
correct, but at the same time, at that point in time, bicyclists, like the law states, has the same rights as a vehicle. So if they want to go ahead and utilize it, they can utilize it, but at the same time, by placing a green stripe in that one close to the crosswalk, it allows a bicyclist.
I'm not asking close to the crosswalk.
Mhm.
Okay, we're talking from the bike lane on the right margin.
Mhm.
To the through lane.
Correct.
This is well before the crosswalk.
Again, I would not recommend. You would create, it's too much of conflict with that location. We have located in other places, but I would not recommend it at this location.
The point is to call out the conflict. The conflict is already there.
Duly noted, but like I said, I don't feel comfortable, neither is my consultant, feeling comfortable with this type of stuff. So for us to go ahead and put our license on the line to say, just go ahead and put it in, we don't feel comfortable with this.
I invite you to come ride it with me.
Okay.
And you'll feel uncomfortable doing that maneuver without any kind of caution.
You're gonna be in a conflict whether I put a stripe there or not.
Yeah, but I think the striping somehow warms the driver and I think we're not engineers, so we don't know what is the best solution to put there. But ending a bike lane but right before a major intersection isn't a solution, so I think we're just asking for help us find what is the allowable solution, but what's currently presented there is not acceptable for a bicyclist safety.
Tony, can I ask, were you proposing something specific here or just
Yes.
noting that the conflict
This
exists? Yeah,
is exactly what they're asking.
yeah, I was looking at San Antonio and Foothill because I recall that being a similar issue when that work was done years ago, and I know that area, so, yeah.
The big difference on that, on San Antonio, is the fact that
There's a bike lane,
there's a bike lane
yeah,
there.
and it's wider,
Yes,
yeah.
so you're actually creating, an opportunity for bicyclists to go from one bike lane to another bike lane.
Right, exactly.
So there,
That's
you're
something
trying,
to track,
correct,
yeah,
but on this particular situation, you don't have a bike lane.
Yeah.
So they have to utilize the bike lane, just like most motor vehicles.
Yeah.
Which bicycle is considered a motor vehicle. in
actually,
this
recall
situation.
folks saying, and shoot that one too, but, yeah, okay. Yeah, I like what Stacy heard you say, which is, we don't necessarily know the technical answer. We don't know the best practice, but we do know that, when you're looking at a situation like this, yeah, you see the bike lane sort of terminate prior to the intersection end. We want to make sure we're giving people, sort of some indication of what they should do at that point, to the extent that's possible with the road geometry. But it sounds like, Stephen, you've had that exact conversation with the consultant.
Sure.
And there either isn't necessarily a best practice for this road geometry, this circumstance, or we're looking at it.
This is a conversation I've had with the consultant for about half an hour.
Yeah,
Just trying to
yeah.
figure out different scenarios. We've looked at your request to look at the evaluation of possibly removing the right turn pocket. That was not even something that's feasible, just because of the traffic congestion. It's going to cause even more problems.
Mhm.
We have looked at possibly utilizing the right turn pocket for both as a through and a right turn. That would cause conflict. That's why I was kind of surprised to see that. But my instruction to them is go ahead and take it out, because we have already explored that option. You're in a situation now giving the bicyclists a false sense of they could go forward, the cars are expected to make a right turn because it's a right turn pocket.
Mhm.
And then the bicyclist has to sit in that right turn lane because they've got a red light, so they can't go through, and so they block the right turn lane.
Correct. So
I'm assuming that somebody in the state has solved this. We can't be the first city with this problem. So somebody has solved it, A. B. On Foothill and San Antonio and El Monte, when that's not even a bike lane. And when there was the idea of putting those big green slashes there, I remember the county had, they were like you, oh, we can't do that, we can't do that. But, and it's not allowed, it's not allowed.
I'm not saying it's
They-
not allowed.
They went back to the state and got special approval to do that.
Yeah.
So I think the thing is, what I'm trying to tell my fellow commissioners is, we don't know what the answer is, but we want an answer for the bicyclists, because just ending the bike lane right before a major intersection isn't really acceptable.
It's kind of concerning when you said that the county had to go and get special exemptions on that. Because that is a special, basically,
You'll have to ask the county exactly what they had to do. I don't know what they had to do.
yeah, because
But
the
there was-
geometry and the layout of the bike lane is very different, like I stated. You have a bike lane. You have a gap between two existing bike lanes that allows you to go through the traffic. So I can see that. That's one of the reasons why, when you look at Springer on Berry, we have used the same designs. But in this particular case, you're basically coming into a bike lane. There is no bike lane until you cross the intersection. So we're trying to provide an area where a bike could stop in the intersection itself and give it a designated bike lane through the intersection.
Where are those places on El Camino? Like El Camino and down by 85, and there were some other places along there that didn't be slashing at the,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
yeah. I'm trying to copy this out. So it's,
It's right there on Middlefield, I want to say. Is the on-ramp to the 280, I want to say.
85.
Yeah. And even at those locations, it's the same geometry layout, and they did not do it that way.
Oh, but look, they've given a path for the bicyclists. They have a green bike lane, they have a slash, then they have a green bike lane that moves them into the straight ahead.
All right, there is an existing bike, there is, what I'm saying is, we are connecting two bike lanes before that intersection. On this situations, we are not doing that. We,
Oh, what are we,
What-
so
what
we
Steve's
have bike
saying
lanes,
is-
the bike lane and it doesn't go straight.
That's a shame.
There's a bike lane on the other side of the intersection,
Yeah, then there's two bike lanes. Yeah,
but to get to it, you have to use the through lane or you have to steal the right turn lane.
I actually kind of feel like taking the Sharrows out
That's the same.
is good, because I don't think we actually want cyclists to be in the right lane at that time.
You
So
want
it
through
would be
cyclists to be in the. through.
not only not allowed, but not preferred.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I still don't understand why that solution right there wouldn't work here. Sorry, I'm missing that explanation.
Well, it's a good point about the bike lane resumes on the other side of the intersection, is that right? So,
Well.
Yes, you can see it.
But I think the point is, there is a dedicated bike lane right after the crossover lanes.
right,
Before you cross the intersection.
apologies, I was not clear. I'm talking about on Cuesta and El Monte. Is it the case that the bike lane resumes on the west side, or I guess it's west or not, but
On the left hand
past
side.
the
of the
intersection, yeah.
I
yeah, the left
see it
hand.
on the, I see it on the map that's
Yeah.
in our packet.
It picks back up,
Yeah,
yeah.
it picks back up.
It doesn't, yeah, I mean, we're just sort of using back of the napkin here, but yeah, it's not clear to me that there is enough room to actually have a separated, or distinct bike lane in the through lane, but is there a way, and we're being told that Sharrows are not possible. I think, you know, presumably you could have a Sharrow that goes through that middle lane if it were allowed by law. Or some indication, like a hashing and then a Sharrow through that lane to let bicyclists know that that's sort of like the preferred route, and then they can resume the bike lane past the intersection. But I don't know, short of a Sharrow, if there's some way that we can indicate to cyclists that that's sort of the ideal path. That sounds like Stephen, you've had that conversation. Can I ask a question? And apologies if I missed, you know, the reason for this, but like last year when we had work on a couple intersections, we had the consultant here that we were able to talk with them. Or they're not available to be part of the conversation.
did not think that they were
Yeah,
necessary.
For sure, yeah. No, that's fair, that's fair. Just sometimes they, you know, they're kind of one of the experts that we're relying on to, talk through design options. So, but, yeah, okay. All right. Do others have additional comments here? On this one? I'm conscious of that we have a few that we want to get through, but I don't wanna short circuit any conversation on this either.
Well, comments or questions, just questions for now.
Sure, yeah,
This question.
that's right.
From the public,
It'll be at the end.
or at the end?
This is not.
Okay, can we get copies of the maps? Because I think would be,
It's part of the packet, it's on the packet, the complete streets condition packet.
yeah, but we don't have hard copies.
Yeah. It's 50 pages.
Yeah, but if we could have had a copy of the maps, could you make some copies of the map?
So it doesn't need.
Color maps are better.
We don't need the, yeah, we don't need the 50 pages, but you could have made little packets of the maps.
One.
The maps, the plans.
Yeah. I'm good.
We do not have capability of printing it out at this point in time.
The parks, right here, the printer.
Um,
So to move on, is there any other questions regarding this issue?
Actually, I think I would like to open it up to, if we have any public comments specifically to this intersection, if there's folks here, who'd like to speak, we can do that now.
You want to poll where we're all from?
I'm sure it's been interesting.
Okay, let's go there.
Can I comment on?
Please, yeah.
So I'm part of a parents group. We're trying to encourage our students to bike more. And if you do parking lot math, you can figure out, you can put 10 bikes into one parking spot. So the better our bicycle infrastructure is, the more parking there is available for those people who can't drive, or who can't bike or can't walk.
Yeah.
And so I really encourage all to make this as friendly as possible for cyclists and for walkers. You know, in thinking about those people who can't necessarily bike or walk, they'll have a space they'll have more parking spots, for one thing. Part of the role of this intersection and potential striping would be not just to let the cyclists know what to expect, but also to let drivers know. I've had the experience where drivers don't realize that a sharrow is actually for, I know you can't put a sharrow there, but they don't realize that bikes can also be in that lane. And so whatever kind of alert you can give to the drivers, the better off things will be for the cyclists and for the drivers too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Was it last week or a couple weeks ago? Scott Commissioner Pietro wrote an article in the town crier, and it talks about the share road.
Yeah.
So it's still.
Shout out. Okay, thank you. Art, or Stephen, actually, did you need anything else from the commission?
We hope for final comments on this with the commission.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
let's
I
do
think
that.
we
Let's do
need
that.
a direction on that.
Let's do comments. Commissioner comments.
I think our chair should give staff clear direction on this item of what the commission wants to see. If it's not obvious already, my personal opinion is that this is not a solution. I don't know what the exact solution is, but there is a solution out there that will take bicyclists through that. And I'd like to see a solution. Whether it's green paint, sharrows can't be used, whatever it might be, but it should take them through the whole path. The bike lane should just not end right before the intersection.
I agree. Thank you, Stacy. Does anybody else have anything else?
20 feet of green paint would solve a lot of problems.
Can I ask for a little more clarity, Tony, on, you're talking about a hash like we saw at the San Antonio intersection that indicates that a cyclist could merge from right to left into the through lane prior to the intersection?
Yep.
Anything else? Design wise?
Just at the end of from the bike lane, into the bike lane there to the start of the free lane would be fine.
Yeah, something that indicates that a merge could happen there, yeah. And I suspect, that actually probably accomplishes some of the purpose of the Shara, to be honest, because it indicates that, there's a cyclist that's gonna be occupying that lane prior to the intersection, so maybe that's something we've looked into, okay, cool. Anybody have anything else on this one? Okay, so then, oh yeah, please.
So I just want to echo something. I think this is a suboptimal solution. So I think anything that we can do to improve the safety, let's be creative about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this particular toolkit. Again, Stephen and staff, we fully understand your professional opinion on this, but let's see if we can be a little bit more creative. And come up with a better solution. The only other comment I had is, I didn't make it a question, but I want to make it a comment, and I don't see striping on the other side of El Monte,
Mhm.
in the plans. I'm pretty sure that will be part of the plans.
On the other side of El Monte?
Yeah,
Past Cuesta?
yes,
The project ends right at Cuesta.
okay. So it's a little confusing, and I think we should see if we can at least do striping on the other side, review the striping. The striping on the other side is kind of weak. So I request staff to take a look at the striping on the other side, at least reiterate the striping on that side.
No.
Because
You mean just right at that intersection, right?
at that intersection, the other side,
I would support that too. Cause then,
I mean, you don't have to go to the whole street, I'm just saying, just
Just a
because
few
we're doing
feet
this,
beyond
to
the
clarify. I think, again, my concern is about the bicyclists coming down, El Monte from Foothill. And I would like to see some clarity in striping.
I think that makes sense. Extend it through the intersection, thanks to the other side of the intersection.
and just beyond. is
Yes,
what
yes,
she's
beyond,
saying.
beyond, yeah.
The striping to the left of the drawing is just fine in reality. In my humble opinion.
I'm not asking to revisit, I mean, so I'm not asking to revisit in new striping, but the paints are faded, just refresh.
Yeah, refresh the page. Okay. Thanks, all right, awesome.
Just,
Appreciate it.
just so that you keep it, since you guys are constantly referencing Caltrans, what they have done in El Camino. This is a different example of what they're doing as well. Now, this is a design that was done prior to the new implementation of the new law that shows Sherrills. But given the fact that our project was done after the new law has been implemented, I cannot implement those Sherrills. But as you can see, the striping is going through a driveway. It comes to a dead end. From this bike lane to the intersection itself, there's no striping whatsoever.
Right.
But is there an indication there that, and I don't know if anyone else can see this, but is there an indication there that, oh, yeah, okay. That cyclists are gonna tend to merge to the left? I see the Shero, but are they actually changing lanes, like out of the bike lane into a traffic lane?
That's what they're basically doing, is
Yeah.
through the through lane. So you see this location right here.
Yeah.
Where they have indicated. Where they're indicating that a bicyclist could park in that location, and they denote it.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I'm proposing to put a bike lane indicating that you could go through the intersection.
Yeah.
To show that there is a bike lane guidance.
I think, I just,
The situation's not analogous. This is not a right turn lane.
Yeah.
It could be used as a right turn lane.
And it's not a dedicated.
That
It's
could be a
not a
through lane.
dedicated right turn lane, and therefore bicyclists who want to go straight are perfectly welcome to use that right lane.
Let me look at the other side.
no, that's okay, I was just gonna say that,
Yeah.
this was the driveway version, but there are other things over on El Camino where it is intersections where they have those stripes.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Leading up to the intersection, so the drivers and the bicyclists are warned with green paint, this is the conflict area
Yeah.
versus
Absolutely.
what's proposed on Cuesta, where it's just like, tell the bicyclists, like, have fun.
So Stephen, while I think you're looking at other intersections, which I appreciate that, I think I just want to collect a few things that I heard from everyone, and say, I think it would be really helpful, you know, I'm probably just restating what other folks said, but I think it would be really helpful to come back with some additional options here, totally understanding the constraints that you're experiencing and not, you know, recognize those constraints. If Sheros are not allowed, then we don't need to go with a proposal like that. But I think, let's see what we can do to connect that bike lane to through lane where bicyclists are gonna go. See if we can get an option there, similar to what we see like on San Antonio and Foothill. And, you know, you don't need to use Shero, but, I think some indication, let's look and see what's feasible and what's within best practices. I think that's the ask from this commission right now.
Yeah, can I say something? Could you have a chance to make your cursor bigger so we can see it easier on the screen, please? Thank you.
I'm not sure if we can do it, but I
Oh,
appreciate.
You want me to? go back
Make
to that?
the cursor bigger, yeah,
Thank you.
but yeah, okay. In the interest of time, I think we should move to the next, I appreciate everybody's input.
No, doing on, I'm on time.
So. It's on the screen, so.
Awesome. Sorry.
So on the continued, the bike lane, the designated 5-foot, bike lanes on both sides going down to El Monte. Again, through the intersection, we have, placed, the bike lane, the green dot, green striping through the intersection itself. One of the questions that, one of the requests that the commissioner asked is to put a speed bump on Hawthorne, and that request was, considered, but because of the fact that it would hinder, emergency access. Fire department is, does not want to see that, speed bump. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to slow people down by creating, more of a 90-degree turn to force people to slow down. What we have done is we have placed delineators with striping that creates an island. So for them to go ahead and make that right turn, they practically have to come to a really slow movement prior to making that right turn. So that should be slowing people down. They cannot go ahead and do a cut through because we're actually placing delineators out there. So they're forcing them to slow down. That goes both on either side of Hawthorne that you can see on the striping. So we're trying to create an island of a sort to try to force these people to slow down and make that right turn. So that was the other option that was brought up. We came up with the idea. Any question on this issue?
Steve, just so I understand, so it's those sort of bulb outs, that's what you're calling the delineator.
Yeah, so what we're doing is, here's the bike lane here. So what the tendency has been is because this is such a, it's like a 135-degree turn. So to slow people down enough so that they can make this turn, we're no longer allowing this cut through to occur. We're actually placing delineators here. So unless they want to hit the delineators, they actually have to slow down enough to make this turn. This goes the same way as 270-degree turn. The way the cars were doing is they're cheating and coming up into this location here and making this turn. So what we're doing is we're trying to get them to slow down. We've put delineators, striping like an island, so that for them to go ahead and make this turn and to avoid this bike lane, they have to actually come slowing down, make that wide right turn and come into a 10-foot lane, 10-foot travel lane.
Thank you. Do you have any questions on this one? Did you have any public comment for this section of Belmonte?
I don't need this is a comment. I worked on the traffic commission.
Sorry, you gotta come up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I worked on the traffic commission and we got involved in the bike lanes before there was a bike commission. And we got involved with the fire department on speed humps because speeding was the main concern. I got involved in that. And, you know, there was a lot of research done about how that there's a response time that the fire department has, and speed humps comply with that. So just asking the fire department, do you want one here? You're gonna get a no. And a lot of people wanna know because they want those people there as fast as can, but you know, it's a lot pedestrians and a lot of bikes versus a lot of sick people, but I'm just saying. There's a process for the for the fire department to say, no, I can't have a fire department, speed hump there. There should be research behind that and not just a blank question.
Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So just to let everyone know, if you're new to our meetings, we have public comment cards, just like at the city council meetings. Anyone who wants to speak, we ask you to fill this card out and turn it in, but you can also fill it out after you speak.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the comments. Yeah, thanks, Stacey.
Everyone needs one.
They're already here.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Then I think we can continue.
So we're going to this construction?
Yeah.
Okay, you get comments? Okay.
Yeah, I asked you that.
Next page.
Oh, yes, apologies. I didn't ask.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't ask the commissioner.
That's the one.
Did any commissioners have a comment on that stretch of the intersection? Stacy, did you have anything on this section of the street? The same one? Okay, thank you. All right, we can move on.
Next page.
Again, we're continuing on through the intersection. We're putting green things down to show that there is basically a bicycle lane going through that intersection itself. We're continuing on with the 5-foot bicycle lane. If we could create a wider buffer between the bike lane and the travel vehicle travel, geez, we're trying to create that as much as possible. So As you can see from the bottom half, you'll see a wide buffer between the bicyclist as well as the car. And again, we're trying to maintain 10 feet because we're trying to be consistent throughout this whole intersection.
It's good.
Okay, only modification that I have on this particular location that is the fact that this intersection right here is basically is a driveway. It's not a connector road. So it kind of, the way the width of this road is set up, it makes it look like this is an intersection. So to bring connectivity between the bicyclist that is here and here, we're gonna be going ahead and putting the green stripe through this area to show that there is a bike lane through this area, overalls that will be crossing through this driveway. This is basically allows this area right here, it's just basically is a driveway for the school. And it looks like it was for the private property. I can't quite tell, but it created a gap in between. So we're gonna continue with this striping scheme to this location to guide the traffic, the bicyclists from here to this location. On this one, yeah, that's about it. We're also doing the same thing here. We're trying to square up the intersection itself. That's why you see striping going on this location with delineators. Again, cars were going through this intersection at a very shallow angle. So they're making this turn really rapidly. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create more of a perpendicular to the intersection itself by putting lines as well as delineators. So force the people to kind of come to a 90-degree turning movement here, stop, and then turn. And I will say the only reason why on this one, you see the buffer no longer there on the south side is because we just don't have enough space.
Good question. Yes, question. The delineators, can you tell me what type they would be?
Is basically I'm looking at two options. One is the one that Caltrans is proposing to use on El Camino Real. It has a little curb on it. There's a 3-inch curb. It's called quick curb.
Is that that is the replacement? Is that if you go to the mountain westbound on 85? No, you don't need to see a big start replacement. Is that the same as what's on El Monte Down Street, both at Almond and at Higgins? Is that the same ones?
No, the one that's the other option is to go ahead and put delineators. Basically, as a sticky back with an opportunity for you to nail it onto the ground itself. Is a little bit more forgiving. But the one that
Is it like this, you know?
yes.
Kind of thing? Yeah, and then you can have her.
Yeah, so let me bring it up really quickly so the public could see what I'm just that close to this. Basically, this is one of the options. It's no, maybe not the right one. The right one. This is more like it. It's basically is a small little 3-inch curb right at the bottom. 3 inches. So what it does is it allows a car wheel to hit it, deflect back in. And then the delineators to clearly show, reflectivity to show that there's a barrier there. The other option we have is to basically go ahead and put this delineator that you see right there, just directly onto the ground itself. That is what you see over there in Almond. So I haven't really decided which direction we want to go. But my direction right now is I'm kind of leaning towards this because it forces that wheel to not, this basically is an obstacle so that they cannot cross over to the bicycle lane.
Okay, I'll come back, just kind of just a follow-up question. The vertical elements are optional.
No, when you install this, the vertical element goes with it,
Whereas the other solution is just only
the
the,
vertical elements.
not the other one. So what I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about what is, have you seen the intersection of Higgins and El Monte?
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it's on the map or not, but those are just 3-inch elements on the, there's no vertical element, additional vertical element, just a 3-inch, vertical height on the curve, that's all. There isn't a vertical element on top of it.
Don't worry, this is how you all put down in that. Yeah, you see it in the other bit.
Yeah, basically, it's,
What I'm-
it's a linear that is attached to the pavement itself.
Yeah, it's attached to the pavement, but there is no vertical element. It's a
Correct.
curve, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for-
Basically, this is what you're talking about. Oops. It basically is a portion that is, the base is attached to the pavement itself,
Mhm.
and then you have the vertical element on top of that.
But there are no vertical elements. I think there is a 3-inch curve that's along.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, it's just a curve.
Mhm.
But the whole reason why I'm trying to make it into with a vertical element is to become more visible.
I understand. But you're not even considering the other option.
No, not at this time.
That would for comments from.
The curb at Higgins also is black, which makes it almost invisible. And if you hit that on a bike, you're going down.
I think for us, you should make your comments now, but can we go through all the other streets?
No, I mean, this particular one, I'm not sure we want any public comments or not, so I will put my time on this.
Wait until after that. Does anyone from the public want to weigh in on, this is, El Monte and Clark? That sharp turn. Sorry. Oh, sorry, yeah, would any other commissioners like to weigh in on that?
Okay, my only comment on that is, this is something that we've never used in New York communities. And it's going to be new, so I would strongly recommend that we get public input on something that is. I'll just leave it at that. I'd like to see if there's any public comments on it. Second point I'm making is, reason why I brought up the one on vegans and the one point that Commissioner Lee made was those black elements are quite dangerous for bicyclists. Because I get it myself, not seeing it in the corner. So if there's something that we're considering, I would consider something that's highly visible. So, I think there are options out there that are sort of not, extremely high vertical elements, but they're visible enough for both bicyclists and at the same time provides proper guidance for the cars to make the turn. So I would strongly recommend that you consider one of those solutions. Or make sure that we get some public input on to whether those vertical elements are acceptable.
Yeah, those vertical elements, I'm sorry.
So recently, the vertical things were installed on Grant, opposite St. Simon. It's north of Foothill. And that seems to be working. I haven't seen anybody crashing into them. I haven't seen any incursions into the shoulder. So actually, I think it's gonna help them.
I have a question, but the ones on Grant, aren't those just the poles that attach to the pavement?
Right.
They don't have, yeah, they don't
They don't
have
curve.
the curving,
Agreed.
so that's not what he's proposing.
That was option 2, but he was considering.
Yeah, but you said you're not wanting that.
No, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, with those that you see on Grant, is on the straightaway. So it's, unless they're really aiming for that, they're not gonna hit it. On this situation, I'm trying to change the attitude or the mentality of the general public, where you don't wanna hit that curve. You're trying to create some sort of barrier for the bicyclist. A lot of those, when we put those curb, the delineators on a curve, they have this tendency of getting hit, and we have to replace a lot of them.
Yeah. Is that a driveway there on South Clark? Or do people, where does people enter those houses?
The,
It's on the street.
is on Clark, and then that wide opening on the north side, this right here. Yeah, there's a driveway right here, and then if you go north, Art. Well, up. This, this right here is a driveway. It basically becomes a driveway for this resident. But at the same time, this, it looks like the school's utilizing this to access their field.
Yeah.
So because of that, it's extra wide.
I was just gonna say, if we're trying a new thing and we're trying it in one place, I agree with Suresh to have public comment, but. If it's right in front of somebody's house, maybe if they're like all good with trying it out, then that'd be good.
Yeah.
Like, and then we can all get some feedback on it.
Great. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I think Stephen, I think you heard from Sarah from the commission on that one.
This is the market resurfacing project that is being prepared at this point in time. Was there any, the other ones that you see on university, I'm not presenting it because we're just replacing it in kind. There's no comment last time around.
Right. What else? What's next?
Let's keep doing good. Let's go spring, since that was the next hot topic that we were talking about.
So while you're pulling up the spring stuff, sorry, I don't want to. On the last slide on El Monte, what is VAR? That's between the vehicle travel lane and the bike lane. It's the second to last page.
This place.
VAR.
Variable,
Okay, someone.
Variable,
the width is variable.
it changes. Very.
So-
Offer better if you know.
So is that just gonna be like an empty space, or is the bike lane gonna be wider, or is the vehicle travel lane wider? Like,
No, we're maintaining a travel lane of 10 feet. Basically, the buffer itself varies.
oh, the buffer, so
The buffer.
the
Bike lane
bike
stays-
lane
stays apart.
buffer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So
Um,
I would just say,
That's part there.
what is the expected vehicle behavior in a buffer like that? If the buffer looks big,
yeah, basically, we're striking it so that the ship is an island, basically.
yeah, but I think my question is, what behavior do you expect? Because in some place, the VAR, the variable, looks on the image, looks wider than the vehicle travel lane.
Mhm.
So what behavior do you expect from vehicle drivers there?
Well, basically, it is, it's created as an island, so if they drive into it, they're basically driving into an island, so a police could officer could pull them over. But
Yeah,
But at the same time, we don't want to be in a situation where we have a bike lane that's extra wide, then narrow, then wide again. So we're trying to be consistent on this. And we also don't want to be in a situation where you're giving the lanes extra width.
And it's probably not a desirable, like, driver experience to.
No.
drive into the island.
No,
Yeah.
because what, as soon as you go from a narrow to a wide, car's gonna accelerate.
yeah, I don't disagree with.
Oh, no, I'm just saying the logic.
I support what you're saying. My only concern is, what are drivers gonna do with that VAR?
Yeah.
That's all. And will there be any concerning behaviors? And will there be any concerning behaviors that will impact a bicyclist? I'm assuming for pedestrian, it looks like there's a sidewalk.
It shouldn't, because it's a straight through. I mean, if somebody wants to use that and to bypass somebody, I can't really stop them.
Yeah, so
That's
what
an
I.
enforcement issue.
So what I would say, yeah, but as we know, our police force is busy and understaffed, so we can't design roads that create enforcement issues. So maybe the feedback I would have is just like, let's keep an eye on this. Because if it's an issue, then it might need some vertical elements or something that tries to keep the drivers out of there. Yeah.
Art.
Yeah.
I changed my mind. Let's go to Newcastle since the public is here for Newcastle.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody.
I'm sure you're not here to talk about spring.
Well, we're,
And
Why
when you
not?
find Newcastle art, tell us what page it's like, so we.
Page 11.
Sheet 18, no? That's a 17, 18?
Is that the PDF page number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me get to it and then I'll show you.
That's actually- That's hard. Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Alright, here we go. So Newcastle starts at Grant,
Yeah, there we go. 24.
it's up.
Awesome. Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay, the change that, between the last design and this one, like I recommended the last time. The width, the bike lane would have been substandard, so would the lanes itself. And the parking itself, so,
I think you need to kind of explain what you're seeing in the design.
okay, well, look, I was gonna kind of explain what was before and what is here now.
Yeah.
But I'll start this way then. At the, basically what we're doing is we're basically replacing the existing striping in kind. So right now, the existing, striping out there is a Sharrow with 11-foot width, road. And, I believe it was
Are you talking about Grant or you?
Newcastle.
I don't know that there's shadows out there now. is there?
There is,
What's it?
it's fate,
On Newcastle,
it's basically, it's,
like the parking lines?
no, you see this sign right here?
Let's have Stephen do his presentation first and then we'll take.
Cheryl's basically to tell the general public, the bicyclist has a right to be in that.
Is it printed?
Correct,
bikes?
correct. It's already out there. It's very faded. You just can't see it very well. So as part of this project, we're going and putting it in kind. The existing travel lane is only 11-foot wide. The intent of the design was to try to create a narrow road feeling so that so the general public actually travels slower through that area. Because the fact that this is a safe route to school, we looked at originally to possibly reduce this down at the request of commissioners to reduce this down as much as possible to put a bike lane on both sides. By doing that, you would have created a substandard parking on both sides. So I would not recommend that. My recommendation is basically to put back what is there now, which is 11-foot wide bike, travel lane. And 12 to 14 feet is right now where the residents park on both shoulders. Keep that the way it is, because I do know that you guys do walk through that area and let the cars just travel through on the travel lane. So that's trying to create as much buffer as possible. Even if a car's parked there, you still have 3 to 4 foot to go around the vehicles that's parked in front of the resident. So the thought is we're just gonna mill and overlay this road and put back to whatever the striping is currently out there.
Okay. Let's go ahead and do public comment. So let's sort of one by one, folks come up.
I'll do it
Yeah.
after. Mr. Chairman, we're still doing 3 minutes?
Yes. Yeah.
Hi.
Nice.
My name is Gary Loebner. I live on Newcastle. We've lived there since '86. I am glad to hear that recommendation. Thinking about a variety of issues, I think maintaining the status quo makes a lot of sense. I was really concerned when I started to hear about the idea of doing some kind of a split with parking on one side and the other. I mean, I think park for a number of factors. One, I'm concerned about reducing parking as we start to see more ADUs show up, and there's a lot of parking on there now, and it's only going to increase. So I think eliminating parking is a real issue for the residents. I think secondly, by introducing parking on only one side of the street, you're now introducing another danger element for pedestrians crossing. you know, we've had a lot of issues about speed on Newcastle. I would love to see the speed come down, but I think having more people walking back and forth across the street is just going to be a problem unless you start to introduce the speed humps, which we would be very supportive of if that were to happen. But, I can't imagine that, for everyone concerned, including the residents there, that splitting the parking and the bike lanes would be a positive result. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for the speaker.
Okay, let's do that.
Sir, thank you for coming. I have a question for you
Sure.
and a question for all the other speakers on Newcastle. I'm assuming you walk up and down Newcastle sometimes.
I do, and we bike as well throughout the city.
So I have a question. Is there anywhere? Just, you saw how we talked about El Monte and how we're trying to improve some of the intersections. Is there anywhere on Newcastle that you think there would be some improvement, that you would benefit from some improvement if you were walking and biking?
Thank you for that question.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest issues that I think the city has neglected is the intersection at Fremont and Newcastle. It's a complex intersection. You've got an offset there with Truman on the other side. You've got a lot of traffic during rush hour. I mean, there are times of the day we can't even get out of Newcastle. And I don't know why, I guess, you know, given the opportunity here, I don't know why the signing went in to stay out of the intersection at Truman, but not at Newcastle. So people, you know, stand there during. I'm sorry, I meant Fallen Leaf. You know, Fallen Leaf has some signing on Fremont to keep people out of there. We could definitely use that. We could use a much better solution of that whole intersection. People are coming out of Truman, doing a U-turn, you know, going west and then coming around. It's a very dangerous and difficult. I'm sorry.
You want me to do that one?
Sure, you can make some comments, but I think there's some opportunities to improve, you know, Newcastle there, and we get a lot of through traffic with the park and,
Trader Joe's.
yeah, Trader Joe's, so
On Newcastle?
Oh,
absolutely.
What kind of Newcastle do you live on?
We're 4 doors off of Fremont.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I can see why, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And I have the same question for everyone who speaks to you, like.
Yeah.
If the proposal is to put the existing things back on, what improvements would you wanna see?
are you doing it in order? Any order?
Whoever's next. Yeah, well, we've got.
I think there's a kind of bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I think we've got
You guys
everybody.
are- Listen to me, I just want, Barbara Loebner, I
Okay.
live with him.
You state your name, Barbara.
Barbara Loebner, 1645. We moved in 1983. We had a almost 86. We had a 2.5-year-old and I gave birth a few months later. And I worked to get Grant Park to be a park. I was pregnant and walking for a bond issue. Didn't happen, but they still bought the park. And then I was on the traffic commission because my children had to walk down Newcastle before they did the striping that was a few years ago, to the bus, because we had a bus cross Foothill, and that was supposed to be promised. That was eventually broken. And people speed down Newcastle. And we did a traffic study when I was on the Being Angel Drive 25 campaign. I said, we radared all over the city and tested, and only 3 or 4 people in all the testing that we did in the entire city was going 25 on a neighborhood street. And I was surreptitiously tagged, and I was the only one on Newcastle going 25. Now people speed to get to the freeway, people speed to get to, we don't have school traffic particularly because we're at the end of the district there, but people still speed and there's no reason for it. So it's a long street. It was a wide street, which gave people that. I think some testing would be interesting enough if it really slowed anything down. I'm gonna say no. And so I am a big proponent of speed humps, and there are speed humps and have been approved by the fire department. They can go over them at a speed, if they're done right, to get to everyone pretty safely. And the only problem is where, because there's so many driveways and it eats up parking and all of that. I think there could be better crosswalk parking at Newcastle and what's the first one? Benroe? Benroe. It's a curve there and a little bit of a curve, and kids do cross. The few kids that walk to Montclair use the crossing guard, go across, or the few kids that really parents don't want them to do. I would not let my kids ride to Montclair until they're in the 5th grade. I couldn't do it. So speed humps. Come on, Newcastle, speed humps.
Sure.
Did you get a card?
Apologies.
I felt it.
No, no,
I have to-
did you get a card?
I have to apologies, I have to call the next speaker.
Yeah.
Is it, Caroline Horn? Oh, you are, okay, all right.
She
Uh,
spoke a little bit ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Tim Stone,
That's me.
okay, great.
You saw me sit down.
Yeah.
My name's Tim, so I live at the entrance of Grant Park, right on Newcastle, 1841. Been there about 10 years now. So thank you for your thoughtfulness and kind of the effort you put in. So I was happy to hear that there is going to be a change, particularly to the streets, because I think there's a lot of parking that happens. There's like a really good residential feel. I have 3 kids, 11, 8, and 5. My 2 oldest ones bike to Montclair every day. The route they take is they go down to Newcastle, they take a left on Morton, and then we send them up Grant because of the bike lane on Grant. So I think that is actually pretty effective there.
Those bike lanes weren't there before on.
They weren't there, no, they weren't there.
For my
before.
kids,
Yeah. But that is the route that we actually take them down, and they go alone now. My youngest 5-year-old will probably also do the same at some point as well. I think as long as things are staying the way they are, I'm actually pretty happy with that. I did have one question about the Sharrow, which I've actually never seen, and there's no indication of that, so maybe they're like really faint and have disappeared across the street, but I actually haven't. Like if you look on the street, it doesn't exist on any of the streets. That's why I was really curious, and if that doesn't exist, would prefer to it not be there, because I think it would encourage a little bit more way through the street. And then finally, to your question about like what would help improve, I think others have mentioned the speed, and so I live right at the corner when people turn from Oakley or down Newcastle passing Oakley, and so a lot of people pick up speed on the curb. And so I think if there are ways to address that, that would probably just help a lot of people. I intentionally sort of park my car in that space so that people may slow down and not just cut through the 12-foot on the side just to kind of get through. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question? When your children bike to Montclair, are they having any challenges at the intersection of Newcastle and Morton?
Mm-mm. It's not a super busy intersection, and I think that's been nice. So I think if we encourage a lot more traffic through it, then we'll get busy with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Tim. Cheryl, thank you, Cheryl.
I live right across the street, actually. And I understand a lot of his issues with regarding that curve there is horrendous. I'm a walker, and you all got my email, and I invited every one of you to come and walk with me to experience Newcastle Drive. Because I'm a walker, I did not want to have taking parking away, and also I like the bike lanes. Is the white lane gonna be the bikes stay in the bike lane, or they're gonna be in the car lane? That I don't understand.
With the sheriff, they could actually ride their bike in the travel lane.
Oh, okay, so the white line is still gonna be there,
Mhm.
and what's it gonna mean?
It's the white line is an edge line to show that to the traveler, they should not be crossing that line. That's between the center line and the white line. That should be where the cars are traveling through the area.
Okay, and you are aware that Newcastle Drive is not the same size all the way up and down, it's a little different. I'm sure you are.
Yeah, there's sections that, the edge line, between the edge line and the curb, well, some of you guys have curb, is actually less than the 12 feet.
Yeah.
And those areas would have been really difficult to put a bike lane in, because it really narrows it down to about 3.5. And the lane itself would already go down to 9 feet if we were to do that.
And like all the other people who live on Newcastle, too many speeders, absolutely too many speeders, because I walk and I cross the street, and when I cross from my house, beside Tim's to go to Grant Park, I have to listen for the cars, I can't see them, and they can't see me. And so my driveway is a blind driveway, as is Tim from that corner. So we do have blind driveways on Newcastle Drive. Intersection I'd be concerned about, when I walk down to Woodland Library, when the people are turning off of Grant Road to take a right on the Newcastle Drive, they go really fast. And so I don't cross at that intersection, I actually cross before I get to that intersection. So maybe if you somehow can slow the traffic down, coming onto Newcastle Drive, that'd be great. And to slow down the drivers. And thank you very much for not taking parking spaces away. I'm very grateful. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to somebody coming out and walking with me.
You've got Gary Loebner.
That was,
Oh, you've got him. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I think that was everybody, but if I miss anybody, please let me know.
Just to kind of give, if I may,
Yeah, please.
just to kind of give you a general idea, we actually looked at the possibility of trying to narrow the road down so that the cars cannot fly through that right turn. The challenge I have is the fact that
Talking about
Where are you
from Grant Road turning onto Newcastle.
Correct.
Yeah,
which I have,
yeah. Thanks.
okay, right there's, you see that white line right next to number 10? This driveway actually goes up to about right here, so this would not give us ample amount of try to create a bulb out in this general area here. It would make it very awkward for the general public. One thing we could do is we could kind of taper it out more, but this property would be impacted. No, we looked at, it has to be symmetrical.
They speed on the other.
Yeah, I'm aware of this because I've seen it many times as well. So we looked at different option of trying to address this with, I looked at possibly putting in, again, delineators here and try to create this buffer to slow people down and make them go this way. But it would not be effective without making it symmetric, to slow people down on both sides. Because what happens is this, if I don't go ahead and put a delineator here, you're gonna be in a situation where I have this buffer here, so they're gonna probably swing out and trying to come back in, so they're not gonna slow down at all. Now it's creating even more of an issue there.
so I'm sorry.
Can I go back up? I want to say something else.
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay. Yeah, let's do a couple follow-ups.
All right.
You didn't use all your time, Cheryl, so you got. Yeah.
But the other thing is like they commented on the Fremont, Newcastle.
Yep.
I never go up now and make a left turn on to Fremont. I can't.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And but I can turn right. But it's really nice that people do stop when I'm coming back down Fremont to turn left on the Newcastle. They do stop for me to take a left turn.
Okay.
So, but it is hard to take a left turn from Newcastle on the Fremont. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I was just gonna,
Can you go to the?
okay, I was just gonna piggyback onto the speeding comment.
Yep.
You know, that end, the intersection there at Grant and Newcastle is an issue, but I gotta tell you, the section between Fremont and Bend Road was an absolute speedway.
The northmost portion. of
In
Newcastle.
both directions, going either direction, people, it's quite a section there, and people try and make up time, I mean. That's the place where we're impacted, we're in that section, and I just think that's as much an issue of speeding as that corner.
In the straightaway there. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, okay, Steven, do you wanna package some of what we heard?
Okay, yeah, I don't think we'll do that intersection.
Oh, yeah, okay. Let's do, two comments for commissioners. Does anybody have a comment on, one, yes,
I have a couple of comments on Newcastle. Number one, similar to what we're kind of saying at El Monte and Cuesta, let's find a solution. Let's find a solution for Newcastle and Grant intersection, because I've walked through them too. And you don't walk, you run.
Yeah.
Hoping you'll catch a gap between the traffic so you don't get hit in that intersection. And my friend's friend was pushing a baby stroller and they were hit in that intersection. That's not unacceptable. So Stephen, we may not be able to have perfect symmetry on each side of the road. I know you want to do everything like near and perfect, but we need a solution for pedestrians in that intersection. And even bicyclists who come up, because a lot of the Montclair kids have the option to go on Morton, turn on to Morton. The kids going to CMS, Cupertino Middle School and Homestead High School, they all kind of come up to this intersection, Newcastle and Grant. And some of, a lot of them cut through the Lucky's parking lot today. But once Lucky's is redeveloped, they may not be, they probably won't be able to do that cut through anymore, and they'll be coming up here, and all of them. Some of them are today, so we just need a better solution in that intersection.
Are there plans for that already?
So this is not a development conversation, that's a private piece of property. And the private owner has to bring forward plans to the city when they want to.
Okay.
But what I would also say to the residents is everyone, who's walking on Newcastle today, once Lucky's is redeveloped, it might be just all cars on Newcastle parked. If there's parking on both sides of the road. And I don't know what that means for the neighborhood walkers. So I don't think it'll be very good, and the kids walking to school. So I just like that as a concern I have. And then the other concern I have is the intersection of Newcastle and Prima, both for vehicles and also for pedestrians and bicyclists going up there.
yeah, okay. Yeah, so-
And then I think we've also heard about Newcastle and Benroe intersection, so I haven't paid too much close attention to that. Even so, I don't know if you want to take a quick look at that to see if there's anything that can be done.
It sounds like it's both of the places where people are entering and exiting Newcastle.
Yeah, those two
Yeah.
places for sure.
Yeah,
And then now there's a third intersection that one of the speakers brought up, and I'm not as familiar with that one, so
Yeah.
I'm just curious if there's anything to think about for that one.
yes, yeah, for, thanks, Susie.
And then I don't know, I think two other things. One is speeding. I don't know in the striping and signing, I know we're narrowing the lanes, how much that'll help, or if there's any other things we can do as part of this project. And finally, I'm glad that we have one current parent here and also former parents, but I think it's unfortunate that we don't have more members of the school community here.
Yeah.
Because I know that moms, I've heard of a lot of places on this street over the years. And, I know was concern, including for bicyclists.
Let's, yeah, come to the podium.
I want to go back to, because there's not more parents here, is that the communication. Many people did not get the postcard. The postcard only said resurfacing.
Right.
And that's totally miscommunication, so maybe can you increase the communication, and you might have more people.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything else, Stacy?
No, I think I would just echo that, and I've kind of been a broken record on that, but I think that we're in some ways having a less formal meeting tonight, so we can get the feedback from the public. But it would be really nice if we had more of a process earlier on in these projects where there's community meetings for these items, and it's inclusive of everyone.
Yeah.
Including the school community, and so we can get all this, where's the problem spots, okay, what kind of solutions do you want to think about before we get all these mock-ups on the screen? And I hope we'll get that right for next year.
wonder if there's-
start early and get the community feedback.
I wonder if we're looking at those portions of the community, there's a way for us to reach out just directly to the school and community themselves. Is there are some students in school bus that way? Tony,
Several points. First off, on the Sharrows, if there's Sharrows on Newcastle, they're invisible to Google Maps. But if folks do want to see a Sharrow, there's one on Grant, just southeast of Newcastle. So it's right there in the same area. I'll second the comment about delineators there, even if it's asymmetric. Even just putting delineators along the north side of the crosswalk up to the fog line would prevent cars from cutting that. And I think that would help slow things. It's worth it as an experiment, if nothing else.
Tony. Okay, well, hey,
Going down Newcastle to Grand, when you take a left or the right, and it's very bad visibility looking to the right. There are no, on Newcastle, there's some trees and hedges there that you have to actually dole out. So I wondered if that could actually be reduced also. I know that it's part of the public works thing.
It was at the intersection?
yeah,
Newcastle
Newcastle,
and Grant.
if you're going down Newcastle, you're gonna go right on the Grant. That's what-
Or if you take a left, and
Yeah, you're
when you have to look to the right,
Yeah.
it's difficult to, so you have to actually creep out to the intersection a little bit more to make sure that the speeding traffic or other side is not.
I will put a work order in tomorrow.
Awesome. Great job.
The, on the plan, there's a tree right at 1998. That's one that's.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it right now, so I'll put a work order in tomorrow.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, great. I think we had a couple comments on primarily traffic calming and just speeding on a few stretches there. So if there's an ability to look into that further, I think we're hearing that loud and clear from the community, so thank you. Okay. I think we've got everything in on this stretch of Newcastle. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate everyone coming in very much.
We can leave now, don't we?
We're not gonna talk any more about Newcastle tonight.
If you'd like, you're more than welcome to stay and listen about the.
Definitely, if you have any more comments,
Yeah.
definitely email it to me,
Yeah.
or email to me, we'll put you.
Right, and I want to see some of you out there.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, somebody, okay.
I'm so happy.
What's next year?
Yeah.
See this,
Oh, we don't want, we're done with this now?
is there any more comments?
Yeah, it's pretty much in time, so there's nothing really changed. Let's go straight. Oh, if I may,
Let's ask Art.
if I may, Art, just to let the commissioner know on Fremont and Grant, for your request, we went ahead and put the green striping through the Fremont intersection. So, Art, if you don't mind pulling that up.
Nice.
And then we also, are refreshing the paint at that location for the pedestrian. crosswalk. Fremont and Grant.
Where are we?
Fremont and Grant.
You mean Newcastle?
I mean, I'm sorry,
I was gonna say, what do you?
Newcastle and Fremont.
Newcastle, I have that, so.
Because there is,
Let me just share it real quick.
Two things to think about.
Do you guys see it now?
That's page 10.
Yeah.
So you can tell that we have continued on the bike lane through the intersection itself per your request.
Newcastle.
so you're just gonna make that the ladder as opposed to just two parallel lines?
Yeah, everything's gonna be ladder.
We're trying to press
Well,
one.
you didn't like ladder.
Yeah, but we're actually gonna put that.
So we're-
So more visible,
Well, also more consistency.
yeah.
That's one thing is that I've seen some ladders, see some continental, and it's like. It probably should be,
We're trying to be consistent with that.
right, so you, so everything's gonna be
Ladder.
flat.
Yeah.
So one question I've had.
Oh, yeah. I think we should try to wrap on Newcastle since we had a.
Well, this is.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
We did say we're not talking about it anymore.
That was-
It's probably more generic, but it has to do, with this example here, you can
Zoom?
Right.
Okay, let's just be quick. Yeah.
Well, it's more general than just, so where you're putting that ladder, the green is, the bike path,
Correct.
but if somebody's walking there, they're not gonna go in the crosswalk, they're gonna continue along the bike path, because there is no sidewalk.
Okay.
So people are not gonna go straight and then drop 10 feet, go on the crosswalk, and then go back onto the bike path, because it's pedestrian path. Crazy people will. Very few crazy people. I've seen people, because that happens in a lot of places where and it's consistent if there's a sidewalk, I understand, but if there's no sidewalk, to me, it seems kind of ridiculous. Why even put that way? Why not put that at the like that?
First was there's already a crosswalk there, so for me to remove that crosswalk. That's
So let's not say remove it, but let's say if there wasn't one, but I've seen that a lot of times where they put that. It doesn't make sense to instead of bike path and a crosswalk, but there's no sidewalk. I understand the crosswalk, but where it's at, to me, it should be right there in the bike path, because that's where people walk along.
Okay,
Awesome.
I mean, is there a reason why you guys do that?
I mean,
Tom, you can walk down Newcastle on one side, cross the crosswalk and turn around and walk down Newcastle. on the
But I'm
other
talking
side.
about here, just this crosswalk is on Fremont, and it doesn't matter where it is, but I mean, that's all over the city. It's in other cities too. That doesn't have a sidewalk. If there's a sidewalk, it makes sense, but if there's no sidewalk, and it's just a bike path. You said you're gonna go walking along the bike path, and you're gonna go 10 feet left, go crosswalk, and 10 feet right, to go on the bike path again. Nobody that I know, maybe one person. Everybody I know, just when I've seen, just continue to walk straight and not in the crosswalk, just down the bike path.
in the interest of time, Commissioner, if I may, we'll denote that and we'll try to address that as part of the design. But there is already a crosswalk right next to it, so for me to remove the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And then that's gonna, I'm just wondering why people were doing it, and why, the city was doing that, when to me it just seems.
No,
Weird.
I understand.
noted. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Springer.
Oh,
Hey, does anybody know?
I see 32 on the PDF, which looks like Springer Road repair starts. Yeah, that's what I've got. Yeah.
You want my readers? Can you zoom in a little bit, please?
That's we're halfway there.
Want me to look no more?
Zoom in.
Let me know when you're done.
No. Too far. Okay, that should be enough. Scroll down,
Scroll to the right. Right there,
left,
or left.
the other left.
Yeah.
Other right, sorry. Right,
Where do you want me to stop?
let's go to the beginning.
What's the?
Page
beginning.
28.
Sorry.
Oh, is that right?
28.
I think 26, okay. 26 or 49, so 26. That's from my plans, it's not from the package, so that's not even interesting.
What intersection is that on the left?
This is the point of connection at 905 Springer.
Okay.
This is where we showed a jog in the jurisdictional line. So this would be the location where we thought it was all City of Los Altos, but we're still in talks with City of Mountain View on who owns what in this location.
We own
Our map shows one thing, their map shows another, so we have inconsistency. So at this point in time, they're saying it's all ours, so I need to figure that out.
There's Mountain View saying it's all ours.
They're all ours. Our map shows only half of what's ours.
Oh,
Center
yeah,
left, yeah.
but you know what? It's usually somebody owns the whole thing, I think.
Not typically. It's usually the center line of the road.
Yeah, but I think what we found around here, cause there was that other street, Mountain View, that they own the whole thing. Remember that one we did with them? That was that spring?
That was the other-
Almonte, that was Almonte.
The monte between El Camino and.
And,
Somewhere in this area.
J Street, right?
Yeah, that's
Jason.
all theirs.
Yeah, it was this,
J
it,
Street.
It wasn't
Well,
spoiled.
it was further up, no, it wasn't. El Camino and Monte,
it was above the Y, wasn't
yeah,
it?
just above the line.
Yeah, it was just above the Y, so it possibly applies, it could be the same, it might be the same here.
Bring it up, why? That area. I think Mountain View climbs up to J Street.
Yeah.
And then on Springer, you're saying it's not clear from that. Yeah.
We're still trying to get.
So
good
far,
information.
not gonna be hands on both sides of spring.
Mhm.
But Suresh and Stacy, are you saying that there was a section north of that fork where half of the street belonged to, okay,
No, all of it is Mountain.
yeah.
All of it was Mountain View.
And they're redesigning that completely.
Got it, but I think all of that is consistent with what Steve is saying, because that's the same situation south of there.
Yeah, that it's not in the middle,
Correct.
is that some,
That's
yeah,
right.
that's what we're saying too, is that somebody's owning the whole
If
side.
it's owned by Mountain View, can we get them to do it and pay for it?
It's not one by one.
So the other footnote that I would make is when Mountain View was doing a street, making changes to a street where one side of the road was us and one side of the road was them, but they owned the road. They had the courtesy of bringing it to our commission and taking our feedback. So I don't know what our modus operandi is here, but it would be nice to have some kind of courtesy from Mountain View. I don't know how many changes we have on here, or if you've shared it with staff. or
We've been
clients.
involved with city.
And are they giving you feedback or?
Well, they're still going through their design, so they did not, they're saying that they won't be done with the design until like after the design.
Oh, they're doing a design for the street too.
No, they're doing a design right there at El Camino and Almonte, where Springer's gonna come to.
Up to J Street. Up to J Street, yeah. That's what
So-
I'm saying. So I think the
Yeah.
question is, what is that interface gonna look like?
Yeah,
Well, we have an ample amount of space from where our project ends and where their project's gonna end, so we could do the transition. But based on our discussion, our design is similar to what they're asking, what they're gonna.
Okay, so that's the question I think we're asking.
Yeah, so this is a talk that we have already had, discussion with City Mountain View.
And that project is on the, it's on the city's website, not the website, so.
No, I think the question, I think what Stacy and they're asking is, when they did the design, they came to our commission and asked, took feedback from us. Right? Not just the city staff, but there was a commission, joint commission
Okay.
meeting. That their vice, whatever the,
but BPAC,
I was gonna say, that's a dumb question, is there equivalent of our commission?
they have a
yes,
BPAC.
yes,
They call it feedback.
yeah. So the question is, I think what we're asking is there a mechanism for us to do that, and will it be helpful?
And should we do it? Like, if
Yeah.
we're not making major changes, then maybe not,
Yeah.
but if we're making major changes, like, I think that would be a good courtesy because they did that for us. And there's probably a lot more roads in the city that are gonna be like that.
Like I said, there's plenty of space between where this project ends, where their project ends. So if we have to try to adjust ours, there's plenty of space to
Yeah.
adjust it.
Got it. It's not, so that's one consideration is where did the project end and start into the connect? But the other consideration is which city is on which side of the road, and if Mountain View's on one side of this road, not just Los Altos, even if we own the road, what kind of courtesy are we extending to them? And the courtesy they extended to us is, we had a joint meeting with their VPAC where they own control of the road by Almonte from El Camino up past this. But they gave us the courtesy of taking our feedback, our commission's feedback in a joint meeting. Now, they were proposing major changes. So if, maybe we should see what the changes are and then sort of decide, what do we want
Yeah.
to do then?
That sounds great. What do you got, Tony?
If I understand the map correctly, it's Los Altos on both sides from 905 down.
Right.
So Mountain View is not relevant.
Well, Stacy's talking about, I believe, and Suresh, have where the street, where the jurisdiction changes. You know, it's courteous for us to just consider that there's consistency along the length of the road. We understand that it's all Los Altos on our stretch of the road for doing the work, but we don't have to involve Mountain View
On both sides.
on both sides. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we understand that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
just to clarify what Tony said. So Springer Road on both sides of the road of what, the residential houses or all of Saltos on this
Basically,
project?
what we're showing as the beginning of the project is all within our jurisdiction.
I'm not
So
talking
you're
about
talking
the
about-
jurisdiction, I'm not talking about the road jurisdiction, I'm talking about the residential housing.
Residences on both sides are in South.
Oh, is that right?
That's my understanding based on the number.
Okay, great.
Just north of 905 is 1955, which looks to be Mount.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so on this picture,
Yeah.
100 feet to the left is Mount.
That's what I was thinking, we were looking at, some Mountain View homes there, yeah. But I think the point that Stacy was making stands regardless of whether it's Mountain View or Los Altos home. Because the street very quickly becomes Mountain View that we're talking about. I think just both courtesy and also, physical consistency. And consistency of folks' expectations as they go down the street. So anyway, appreciate that.
Sure, if I may,
Please.
talk about the design.
Yeah.
Still have lots to talk about.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so on this one, one of the comments that was, well, let me back up. We're being consistent with the design itself, where the width of the lane has been consistent with what is currently out there at 10.5 feet wide. And then what we have done is we have created at least a 2-foot buffer. If we could add more, we went ahead and add more. So to create as much buffer as we can, and then we created a 5-foot wide width. We also provided between the edge line for the bike lane then there is a curb. Originally, one of the questions that was said is, we have 25 feet out there. Why don't we make the bike lane wider? Why don't we buffer wider and so on? Well, one thing I had the consultant go out and do is to show where is the edge of the pavement, as well as where is the curb that is currently out there. So once you take those into account, the actual width of the shoulder beyond the bike lane is only 12 foot wide. Typically, a parking stall width is 9 feet, so there's only about 3-foot buffer. Now, this width kind of varies a little. So we're trying to create as much as we can where we can. So like on the north side, you see the 12-foot wide, but on the south side, you only see 5-foot wide. The reason why is because beyond that 5 foot, the residents are actually parking in front of their homes. So they're completely off the street. So we're trying to show as much as we can on the bike width. We're trying to show as much as we can on the buffer without actually having to increase the width itself. So just kind of give you a major summary. So the travel lane is only 10.5 foot wide with a 2 to 2.5 foot buffer where we can, and a 5-foot bike lane. And anything beyond that would be a location where these residents are currently parking. So does anybody have any concerns or questions regarding the layout?
Yes, okay. Is the center line going wrong?
No.
It's not, okay.
When I'm looking at a photo on Street View from like 2011. What does it actually look like today? Do we have a bike lane on either side today?
No, we kind of sort of do on an unofficial basis in some of the locations.
We do.
Yeah, it doesn't look like this, right?
Oh, that's the best.
No, oh, we have, sorry, whoops.
I'm looking at Apple Maps of the Street View and look around and they have it throughout and kind of the stripes are extremely worn,
Yeah.
but it's throughout.
So if you
It's very
look,
effective and there's plenty of space.
Yep.
Clear is nice, except for the quality of the pavement.
Yeah, great.
so if you look at the road itself, there is dedicated bike lane and a park strip. We kind of have a bike lane on this side.
Oh,
But
yeah, now I can see it.
so it's not clearly defined per se. So now what we're doing is we're identifying it. We're creating buffer between the existing bike lane and the travel lane. So we're kind of adjusting this a little bit to make it an official bike lane.
Great. That's great. Okay. Go for it.
Do we anticipate that any cars are gonna park in the bike lane?
No. That's the reason why we're providing 12-foot where we can.
And then do we have are they gonna park kind of far over so they're not opening their door into the bike lane? There's a buffer between the vehicle travel lane and the bike lane? But there's no buffer between the bike lane and the parking. So
So
with that 12 feet, how do you get the cars to go as far right as possible, so they're not opening
the
their
car's
doors?
gonna be parking along the curb, so when you park along the curb, you have a 3 foot buffer between the edge of the car and the edge of the bike lane. So even if they open the door all the way, it still will not intrude into the bike lane. And then the area that you see only 5 feet, that 5 foot would be the buffer because the cars are actually parking in outside the travel, outside in front of these people's home parallel. So let me just. pull up. So here's a good example. Oops, just pass it. The cars are parked on the property itself. There is a buffer in between. So between this curve face and this edge is where we're creating a 2 foot buffer and a 5 foot laden bike lane. And at the same time, there's still ample amount of space for a car to fully open the door.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So the Newcastle conversation brings something to mind. Where do the pedestrians walk on Springer?
On the shoulder. Full stop.
What? But we have a buffer, we have a bike lane, and
And
then,
a 5 foot buffer.
No, bike lane.
So if I stop sharing.
well, on one side we have a 5 foot buffer, but on the other side we have a 12 feet parking. So you're
Yeah,
saying
so
we're
you
gonna
have-
walk in the,
Between the bike lane and the car, it's 3 foot.
Space between where the cars will be parked and where folks can walk, yeah,
if the car parks all the way to the curb,
if the car parks in the curb.
and then you have 3 feet.
That's right.
So go on to the next one.
Tony, sorry, you had your hand up a while
They
ago.
were-
I apologize. Okay, great, thanks. Okay. So, is that everything for this stretch of Springer?
No,
You don't have to go off again.
that was just a.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Next will be Covington.
So one quick comment on the Springer.
You want to come up? Okay.
That was just another one.
Please fill out the form afterwards,
Yeah.
just for recording purpose.
Ken Tidwell, I'm the 914. The only, that, everything you said is true, and the residents are good about parking on the property. People that come in the neighborhood that aren't residents often park in the bike lane. So anything that could more clearly identify the bike lane as a bike lane would improve everybody's life. The worst thing is that a resident is parked on the property, and then someone doing work in the area comes and parks in the bike lane next to them, so then that is hard to walk by. But otherwise it all works. To your question about is there room to walk, normally you can either walk on one side or the other of the car, you can park too close to the street or too close to their house, and there's room to go around from one side or the other. It's a wide space.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay. Keep going.
Okay, Covington is one of the areas that we're actually making some modifications on.
Are you moving? Oh, is this the intersection?
This is the intersection itself, of Covington and Spring.
Yeah.
It's basically the next stretch down.
Yeah.
What we're actually creating is again, like other locations, on El Monte. We're trying to create a feel of narrowness. So we're actually creating like a bulb out at this location with delineators to force people to slow down and then make this right turn into this travel lane here. So we're actually putting in a striping, an island striping, as well as delineators. We're actually continuing on with the bike lane as shown here. And because Covington is a safe route to school, as well as Springer in this location, we're putting in a ladder crosswalk. It's gonna be getting yellow for visibility, high visibility.
If I'm biking on Covington and trying to turn right there. Am I running into delineators?
Which way are you going?
He's taking a right.
Down.
Yeah, this way. It's like,
What we could do is we could try to create an opening for bicyclists.
Okay.
And I was gonna bring up a similar point about the delineators. I'm assuming the pedestrians can shelter behind there. And get,
That's the logic behind it, yeah.
but the bicyclist can't. So if a kid is, so Tony's turning, but say a student is biking up and down Kennington. How do they get through there as well? And maybe that's just another thing to people.
I thought those dividers wide enough, or obviously enough wide enough person to walk through the bicyclists, they try to go from to.
So if,
These are delineators without curve, right?
correct. These are just.
What's the spacing between the delineators?
On high volume, on a high speed road, it's about 10 foot wide separation. But I may be narrowing it down to probably about 8 feet. Just to kind of give it more of a visually. solid wall.
Like 2 or 3 feet of bicyclists can go through.
But I would just say for Tony and you guys, like, just think about the intended behavior of the little kid biking through there and what you want them to do.
We
For
want them,
turning and straightaway.
we want them to zig through the delineators and then use the crosswalk.
Is that what you want them to do?
Basically, we're trying to provide a refuge for them in that island area.
For the bicyclists, do you want them to do what Tony just said?
Zig in,
Zigging meaning.
Go between the delineators.
it's not a solid wall, it's just, you could navigate between 8 foot wall separations available.
And then I think the nice part is when they come out, they're going into bike lane. So they're going into a safer part of the road.
If they're turning, not if they're going straight ahead.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, if they want, they could ride in between the delineators, 8 foot wide spacing. So, you know, even in the islands, I mean, doesn't mean that they have to go from bike lane to bike lane, they could go from bike lane island.
Yeah, I'm just asking what the intended behavior is, and then if the drivers are there, are the drivers expecting that intended behavior?
Originally, I wanted to go ahead and try to put a ramp on the other side. But we just don't have enough right away at that location, so we're just gonna have to maintain it as is.
That same thing was gonna be. Oh,
How's that?
yeah, so that's also an example where I was talking about before, there's no sidewalk.
Mhm.
So the crosswalks are in, if you will, not lined up with.
Correct. But because there's pavement out there, they use ADA requirement where you're providing a refuge for an ADA. So you're actually allowed to have a refuge behind the delineator, which works like a curb.
Is that when you offset it from the bike path to the north sidewalk for the,
What do you mean offset?
oh, like I was saying before, where you got the ladder crosswalks?
Mhm.
So that's, if the person's walking, they're gonna go on the bike path or along the road, and then we have to dip along.
Yeah, what we have done is we have actually created a direct shortest path from one crossing to another. If we try to go align it, it's gonna be a little bit more of a walk.
Yeah.
It'll be less of a,
Huh?
it'll be less of a.
But you're creating, I guess, I'm.
I think you need to explain clearly what you're asking, I think. I'm trying to yeah, I think his concern is pedestrians are gonna go on bike lane and not on the crosswalk.
So,
Or he's
Well,
meaning
what I'm
that
saying
the
is-
crosswalk should be like.
I'm
where the
saying,
bike
for
lane
instance,
is.
if you're walking along here. This is all, cause there's no sidewalk.
Mhm.
If you're walking along, then you have to go down this way, cross, and then go back up, and you're still gonna go here. So that's what I was saying, is that
Walking below the bike lane though.
Yeah,
right here,
yeah.
Yeah.
is if there's enough room,
Yeah,
if there's enough room, then it'd be like a sidewalk.
let's assume that there's enough room, because the only reason there's not enough room is there's a car sitting there.
If I'm,
That's a problem.
So all I was saying is that, you know, a lot of times there's property here, then there's not any room. And so the person's gonna walk along like this, and they're just really gonna go along here. They're not gonna actually drop down onto the crosswalk.
if I may, Commissioner, let me just switch something that's very fun.
Okay. That's all-
Springer's a little bit unique in the fact that there are sections where there's actually shoulders where pedestrian could
Right,
walk.
no, I agree. I'm just, so that's probably fine, but that's kind of what the example was I was saying, that
Okay,
people are gonna walk along and then they're not gonna drop down into a crosswalk.
yeah, so you're talking about the one that we're talking about.
Right, because it's, it doesn't matter, it's Fremont, but just all over the city and other cities. Other cities typically have it right where the sidewalk is because they have sidewalk.
Yeah,
That's
but yeah, this one is kind of unique in the fact that there's sections of Springer that actually does have sidewalk. And the crossing
Well,
itself,
you mean has some,
area where you can walk.
If I can make a comment on that one, Tom, I appreciate what you're getting at. When I look at these photos, I think as a pedestrian, what you see is curb starts to turn as you get into the intersection. I'm a pedestrian, I'm thinking about what I would do in that situation. I think I'm gonna hug the curb rather than walk in a straight line, because I don't wanna feel like I'm walking into like traffic, if that makes sense. And so I think the natural path is actually not to walk in a straight line, but it's to walk
You
this
walk
curve.
straight line if you're going straight across it, but.
But I don't think you would, because you're gonna find yourself, because these are actually, as the curb turns, vehicles are turning. And so the vehicles are actually not
Well,
going
there's a
straight line.
vehicle, if you're a vehicle, you're gonna stop anyway. Or the vehicle's gonna stop hopefully.
Yeah, but you're gonna stop and go along a path that's described by a circle, essentially, not a straight line. And so I think to stay out of that vehicle path as a pedestrian, I think the natural move is to kind of go along the curb and then take the crosswalk, which is drawn at the shortest point possible between the two intersections, but you know,
You could agree to disagree.
yeah, fair, absolutely. I suspect that's the reason why those are drawn that way. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So we're, again, continuing on with the bike path going all the way through. Next page. Yeah, so there's, again, bike lanes going through the various intersections. I've looked at possibly bringing the stop bar out closer to the intersection itself. But it just, it's gonna make it feel weird, the fact that you're actually stopping in the middle of a road. Unless I've created some sort of barrier to keep cars from actually coming in. This is just something that consultant and I were talking about for
Yeah.
a good hour, how we want to try to address this. And at the same time, one of the reasons why they're placing it where they're showing is because this is where the drivers are already used to stopping.
Yeah.
So the thought is, if they're already used to stopping at this location, they could stop there and then they could inch into the intersection itself. So we're trying not to change the patterns of driver in this area. Yes, sir.
We're reflecting back to some of our scenarios in Jarden Drive and how the similar road is affected and some of them based off the old imagery at least shows that use case and other ones haven't come out to the bike lane, so I guess there's precedence for consistency. If it works for residents, then it works, but
Yeah, so like I said, we're trying to go back and forth on this one. We'll try to come up with a final solution before we go out the bid.
At this intersection, if they stop at that stop sign, do they have visibility
Hmm.
of the intersection and the oncoming cars?
Yeah.
So they can see.
Yeah,
line of sight is available.
If line of sight is available, then
Because in the Jarden Drive, so line of sight is not available.
if, yeah.
I think part of it is because there's an extreme angle on those sections.
please keep in mind, the stop bar that you're seeing there is where it is now.
Yeah, right.
So there's already a line of sight. All we're doing is we're striping it.
Thanks, Steve, for looking into that.
Next one?
So,
All right, again, on this one. Okay, let me back up a little bit.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I love this intersection.
Goldberry or don't Goldberry?
No, let's go on there.
There's a delay.
Keep going to.
No, it is, there's a delay.
yeah.
I'm done.
Come
on,
There's a delay, man.
Okay, on this one, we're trying to create a refuge for bicyclists, full knowing that kids do utilize this area for bicycle. So we're actually creating a bike lane so that just like what you're seeing out in Foothill.
Yep.
Is a bike lane keep moving to the right.
Yeah, gotcha.
So it's transitioning from a bike lane to show a crossing where a bicycle is gonna be crossing a travel lane. Like I stated before, we're creating an island in this area so that if cars are accidentally, for some odd reason, on the right turn lane, full knowing that we have a bike lane there, we don't want them to come back into a through lane. So we're actually putting in delineators and some sort of delineators so that they have to commit to making that right turn. They could try to figure out something else.
So the current stuff that's there are two physical islands.
Mhm.
You're taking those out,
We're taking one of them out,
which one?
the one in the center.
One of it's blurry, but okay, that one, okay.
The reason why we're taking that one out is in the first place, it doesn't really serve a purpose. It's just,
Separating traffic. light.
yeah, it's just separating traffic lane. Not to mention, the way the curb comes out. The way this curve comes out here, if we kept this island in place, this would not create the necessary 5-foot width bicycle lane with a 2-foot buffer. We would actually have to either get rid of this, which really doesn't serve a purpose. Oops. Okay, either get rid of this island that doesn't really serve a purpose, or we would have to go ahead and relocate this curb back, which means that this would not impact how this whole geometry is going to work. So since this island did not really serve a purpose, we're removing this island so that we could have the necessary width to create 5-foot width for the bicycle lane. The max we could squeeze out is 1.5 feet instead of the standard 2 feet. So we're trying to create a thoroughfare for the bicyclists through this area.
Okay, I'm fine with that, but the other island that's on the upper side.
On this side?
You're not taking that out?
Well, it kind of serves as a right turn only when the offset to the right turn only.
But as drawn, right where the island is.
We're actually removing both of the islands.
Thank you.
You're removing all
That's
of
good.
We're removing both of them. And we're actually putting in barriers. I thought about the fact that by creating a barrier, creating a physical barrier here. Physical barrier here, this would have a direct impact to this resident. This resident is already allowed to make this left turn. It's not what I like, but I cannot take away their rights, basically. So by doing that, I have a delineator going from the intersection to this driveway. So by the time the vehicle comes into this lane, they have to drive through the delineator to come back into the travel lane. So it's forcing them to make this right turn. The space, the delineator ends such that if this residence wants to make that left turn, they're on their own. Technically, this is a striped island. They shouldn't be making that left turn, but I'm creating a gap so that this person can at least make a right turn between the two delineators, come in. And here's the delineator that goes all the way through. So if they don't change lane already here, they're trapped and they're forced to make this right turn. So by doing that now, I'm getting rid of this conflict movement for the bicyclist.
Because even on the bottom side of that intersection, it's where there's the businesses and the little park.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, there's a little island in there that's almost like a miniature park.
Yeah.
Couldn't you take part of that out?
We looked into that, but if I were to take this portion out, it would not align with this. So it would be an offset. So it wouldn't, the curve wouldn't align.
Well, I'm just suggesting maybe that would give you more room to play with your different sides of your lanes and street and the bicycle.
Yeah, I don't want to increase the lane here too much. I mean, I'm already providing 11-foot width. So, I mean, I've been trying to consistently try to keep as narrow as possible to try to encourage the vehicles to slow down as they're traveling on Springer. So again, I've just been consistent here. So it creates an 11-foot wide striped island here. But we're putting in a delineator along the right turn pocket. So if they don't change lane before this location, they're trapped, forced to make this right turn. So that there isn't gonna be, hopefully, knock on wood, there isn't conflict between bicyclists trying to go straight.
It just gets really complicated with, shopping center there.
Yeah.
And, over there. Cause I go over there. It's like,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Commissioner, I'm very aware of those conflicts,
Yeah.
and we have, like, I don't know if I said in the last meeting, we've already had a discussion with the county about possibly redoing the geometry. And so that all the confusion is taken out, we could put the bike lane in and so on.
Geometry,
The intersection,
That foothill.
yeah, basically the geometry from this location all the way to Foothill and beyond. Just the intersection itself on Foothill and Springer, it's gonna be about $4 million. That's just, Magdalena would be affected too. We were trying to figure out if there's a way we could drop the traffic from a 2-lane to a 1-lane. So that when you make this curvature, we not only put a bike lane there, but you're not in a situation where you're trying to merge. At the same time, there's a bike lane there, and there's just too many conflict movement. Yeah, so we were trying to figure out how we could do this. Just doing the intersection itself is $4 million. That's not including how Fremont's gonna have to be redone and how Berry has to be redone. So we'll consider that in the future, if there's any opportunity for us to reconfigure this geometry. But for right now, $4 million is my whole annual streets project budget. So unless we don't want to redo any roads, I just gotta try to make do as best.
Well, I think that little area I was talking about on the bottom part of that is, and I understand what you're saying is the positive conflict, but that's one of the few rare places that it's not privately owned resident. It's or just a little bit of park on all of them. So, but
Yeah.
Are you guys up at the corner of Foothill now?
Yeah, we're up right.
So
That's the port.
I wasn't done on the previous sheet.
Oh,
If I could go back.
Is it big enough?
Yeah, that's good. I'm a little concerned about this angle of travel right here. This right turn lane has to turn like this and then straighten out again. Have you checked? I mean, this seems like you're gonna cause. And if we narrowed this a little bit, this would make it a gentler turn for
I can
people.
do that.
Okay. Any other comments on this sheet?
yeah, I think it'll be a change. That was always a special intersection. The only comment that I have is occasionally I would see a pedestrian standing on one of those little concrete barriers as a refuge.
That's true.
So now this is gonna be a super long crossing for a pedestrian without a refuge. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's not super long, it's 2 lanes.
No,
Even if they were using even if they were using it as a refuge.
I've seen
No,
pedestrians.
I understand that, but it's substandard. So, yeah,
Understand that the current situation is a very special situation. With that said, I've seen pedestrians using, it's not an official refuge, I've
No.
seen him using it as a refuge, I'm just asking. What about the pedestrian now crossing a right turn lane, a straight ahead lane in both directions, 2 bike lanes, buffers, barriers, DMZ, I'm just asking, have you thought about the pedestrian crossing that?
yes.
And what are your thoughts?
The thought is that this is a 4-way stop, so I cannot control how motorists react. But for regulation purpose, a pedestrian should be able to cross.
Yeah, I think the challenge is, I mean, we have to design roads that are safe for the users. So I think the challenge is if you're a pedestrian where that right-hand turn arrow is and you're trying to cross Springer, maybe the car turning right stops for you, but it's hard to get everybody to simultaneously stop for you.
Well,
On these Springer intersections,
Well,
they're
pedestrians
busy.
should, the car should be able to see the pedestrians crossing the intersection.
You know, that,
should be is the operative word.
I think the issue here is the asymmetry, right? Because you have single lane travel lanes on this side, whereas you have multiple travel lanes on that side.
Yeah.
And that asymmetry causes, and the reason why that island was used by pedestrians, they can go across and make sure the other guys are stopping before they go through. And that safety is taken away, right?
Yeah.
So the question I think is what, you know, is there some other solution? Because I think this is kind of unique. I'm not sure we have any other place where we have a four-way stop with an asymmetry like this.
No, we don't.
Right, we don't.
No, we don't.
Yeah, so I think that's why we're kind of bringing up this point, and I think, Mr. Banerjee bringing the point, and I was gonna do the same thing. And I think it's also with the bikes, I'm a little confused, even with the bikes coming, you know, people coming towards, let's see, from Foothill, towards Berry. And it seems like right now, you're expecting the bicyclists to go into that safe zone, we call this like
There's a buffer zone.
buffer zone, right? It's not obvious, but you know, if you wanna turn, if the bicyclists wanna turn, that they need to get into the right turn now. It's not obvious, it's
well,
not
currently
clear,
the bike lane is in the middle.
Do you see
between the
sort
two
of what it
barriers.
said today?
yeah, right,
You have a sheriff, I guess, in the right lane, if you wanna know that.
Right.
Well, they have a sheriff in
Yeah,
the middle
that
between the
exists
two
today.
buffers. The sheriff is between the two buffers right now.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's a solution that's on, Covington and, Almonte. Where there is a refuge, there's a large green refuge area where, you know, we make it clear that it's possible for students to come and wait there, but that's not a four-way stop sign, though.
Yeah.
That's that has a traffic signal, so, you know, maybe it doesn't apply here, but I think that, you know, that also creates some conflict. Because if I get into this and if I'm on a bike and, you know, I'm a student, I'm not able to make that turn.
Are you talking about this, that Covington and Almonte? Yeah, so it's like a green
This
stripe,
one, yeah.
yeah, that kind of extends all the way from the bike lane to the end of the street. Say that's kind of like a safety area.
Yeah, I've seen students wait there.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Because this one here for pedestrians, the challenge is that Springer is busy. And this is Springer right after, this is where Magdalena and then Foothill and the shopping center.
Yep.
So this is a busy little intersection and then also a school route intersection, not just with kids biking and walking, but parents driving. And because of that busyness at the four-way stop, there's cars always lined up.
Yep.
Both sides on Springer and often on the Berry Way too. And so it's really hard for a pedestrian to kind of,
And also
gotta
there's,
make it across that in one go.
One thing that I think helps is those yellow crosswalks, that really stands out.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I know, but I'm saying when you put the ladder in with that. That's what we're doing for the schools, you know, the squares, the yellow.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, I think that really helps.
Yeah.
For pedestrians.
Totally. Okay.
So I guess the question is, can we give some more thought to pedestrian safety at this intersection? Understanding that driver behavior is such that, as we've described already, that is there space for a place to have some kind of refuge for the pedestrians? Because that's a,
Can I ask Stephen a clarifying question here? So part of the reason you're taking away the islands is because we're adding this element here that doesn't exist today.
Correct.
And to make that space and that math work, we've got to remove here and here.
Right.
Okay. And this is like 4 foot and 5 foot, or no, that's not right, but potentially similar dimension for both of the islands. Okay.
Yeah, so.
But you've got a buffer here, right? For this one.
There's a 4-foot buffer.
So could that be a raised element within the buffer? Like, is there anything preventing that from happening? Right there, like where the island is today. Could you just make it a buffer and keep the island?
yeah, and then the question in West is, should it be there or should it be between the right-hand turn and the straightaway? Yeah, somewhere.
I think it's a good question. I think one of the issues in my mind is, do you have a place for it anywhere else on the street, right? Like, it's a good question for Steven. But clearly, you could keep that island, it looks like, and that could be like part of a refuge. But yeah, potentially you just reshuffle a little bit somehow and create space somewhere else across this walkway. But that was just what jumped out to me, just looking at it here.
What was scary about the island that's there on the top side today is that one of the ends is in conflict between the bikes and the cars. And it's really easy to feel like you're gonna get pinched between the physical island and a car.
Cause the shadow is very big.
So it would be really nice not to have a physical pedestal.
Yeah, so in your view, there's a value in not having it on the north side or not.
Yeah.
On the south.
But
Whatever, top side.
his view is as a
Yeah,
bicyclist
absolutely.
going through really fast. But we also have to think about the kids who
Well, so
are
cyclists-
crossing
Yeah.
and going to school and,
Cyclists should stop too.
yeah.
I've got no problems having space there. The geometry works, put the space in, put the painted lines for it to be a barrier for pedestrian spacing. It's just having the raised curb there is a pinch point and prevents a bicyclist from making an escape maneuver to the right.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. I want us to take a quick 5-minute break, but before we do that, I want to see, do either of you guys have any public comment on anything we're talking about here?
I have one that, about a street that I was told would be talked about tonight, that is not in your packet.
Oh, okay. Did you fill out a card? Jim?
Yep.
Okay,
That's what here.
awesome. You want to give it to me? Can we, if it's not on, is it okay if we take a quick 5-minute break first? Okay, awesome. Thank you. We'll do it as we come back. Thank you for being here.
Well, once a final break.
Yep. Okay, we're back up. 8:19. Okay, what's next?
How much more do we have?
Yeah.
Well, depends on how much we want to
Oh,
talk.
going back to Springer again?
Yes, please.
Last bit of Springer, it will be right there in Foothill. Unless we want to go back to Barry.
Yeah, you guys wanna go back to bed?
Anything else on Barry?
We got no comments? I think you have all our comments. Okay.
Let's go to Fremont and Springer.
Okay.
I can't say much else besides on this one. It's unfortunate that we can't find a low-cost solution because expensive solution is gonna take a really long time and it's really hard to bike through this intersection.
It's hard to drive through this intersection. Safely, yeah. Tony, go ahead.
I know I said this 2 meetings ago, but I'd like to again request green striping along the bottom here, just for the bike lane from the left to the right.
I thought I put it in there.
What's your time? Going from left to
Well,
right.
you know what?
Left
I
to
will
right.
make sure it
That's
happens.
right on the bottom.
I thought they put it in and missed it.
So green striping on
As the cyclist is taking this turn onto Foothill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So green striping.
So through the Foothill?
Springer crossing Fremont towards Foothill.
Thanks for catching that, Commissioner. I will make sure that
Green
happens.
striping. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
So you see, this is right through the.
All the way up to
Right,
Foothill.
Well. the
Yeah,
painting
it's their
stops-
space.
That would be nice, but the painting stops here and I don't think we're allowed to go past that.
Let me see what I can do for you.
But the real conflict is for the right.
You don't like down here, right, and drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what about green painting on the top side above that crosswalk at Fremont Avenue? Like, do we have no space for, that looks like it has space for green paint,
There's.
We're at,
not on here.
we're at,
That's on Fremont side.
on the Fremont side,
mhm.
the width,
No, not on Fremont.
Not on Fremont, but on.
no, on Springer, on Springer.
Yeah.
That's
The
Fremont
width
side.
does not allow it, and not to mention it's a curvature, so it's gonna make it very awkward to begin with as a driver. And then to throw a bicycle in on top of that will make it really awkward. We were trying to squeeze in a bike lane as much as possible, and it's just on the south side of Fremont and Springer. That area is already tight to begin with, but when you go on to the other side, the lane itself is already too narrow to allow us to have a transition bike lane. And this is the whole reason why I was trying to drop the lane on Magdalena, so that I could try to create a safer bike lane without creating all this conflict. And it just causes prohibitive.
It's too bad, because Magdalena has a lot of, people turn left, people turn right, people go straight ahead. There's not everybody's going straight ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, yeah, we looked into that and just.
Yeah, it looks like on the island on this side is really where you're getting squeezed, right? That is the narrow. section,
That's
right?
one area
Yeah.
that's really narrow.
Oh, that's unfortunate, because that island was put in a few years ago.
Well, it might just reflect the geometry. I'm not sure. Oh,
Okay. So it sounds like this one needs to be tabled. It's not gonna get addressed in this project, but it's an unaddressed issue that needs to get.
This is
tabled.
one of those projects like Homestead where I need to have outside funding to do a full-blown study and then look to design.
Or the county.
Or the county.
yeah, I'm counting.
I mean, I could approach the county, see if they're willing to do joint application. But again, it's gonna be a competitive application with everybody else.
Yeah, there will be a Measure B bike ped grant cycle study cycle coming up.
Any questions on this? Or any other locations?
Stony, right? That's Stony would be nice.
Anything controversial?
Well, only thing we're really adding on to Stonehaven is the fact that we're actually putting stripings.
For this? Yeah. We can talk first.
Okay. Stonehaven, right now, there is no edge line striping, it's just basically, well, there are several locations where they don't even have center lines. So we're actually adding edge line striping to kind of create a narrower feel to the traffic lane. At the same time, it allows cars to park and there's a location where pedestrians could walk. We're also putting in center lines where we can close the intersection to make sure that the vehicles are on the correct side going through the intersection. That would be such thing as Sierra Ventura. Right now, there is none of those delineation. Right there on Windmere, we're actually highlighting the crosswalk that's already there. We're restriping that. As well as, again, striping the center line. So we're trying to clearly designate where the car should be driving. St. Joseph, again, refreshing the paint. We're going beyond our overlay so that we can refresh the paint throughout the whole area.
I have a question on the Windermere.
Mhm.
Where's the pedestrian walkway on that side that you talked about?
The bulb out's already there where there is a crosswalk.
Yeah, I know where the crosswalk is, but what happens when you, there's a sidewalk or like a asphalt path past the tennis courts and then you come up to the crosswalk.
Mhm.
But then moving up towards Kent, where's the pedestrian walkway?
There is an edge line. It's how far? That's a 10-foot wide.
Oh,
edge.
that's the edge line.
Yeah.
So you got that. You probably got this one.
Did we make, where are the other places have we done pedestrian paths on the road? Have we ever put like we have the bike sharrows, have we ever put like a pedestrian sharrow on the road?
We have pedestrian lane over by Almond.
Yeah, this feels like it needs a pedestrian lane.
Why? It's the same shelter we got throughout Wilson.
This is also a residential area too. So you only have traffic during peak.
So the real issue here is that we don't have this fog line here yet today.
No.
Exactly. And that's why this is, the cars are all over this.
I think having an edge line in a place for pedestrians is absolutely needed. I'm not sure that the drivers understand that this is a place for pedestrians. And what you're doing is you're moving people out of an elementary school and out of a city park onto a raised crosswalk with nowhere to go. Besides the new walking path, but it's not clear to drivers that that's a new walking path. That's gonna be a right-hand turn from Stonehaven onto Camp. That's what the drivers are gonna, I think that's what the drivers are gonna view it as. It's a scary little, I walk there all the time, guys. That's a scary little place. And then little kids going to school or coming back. From that raised crosswalk up to Kent on the top side. And then also up to Sierra Ventura on the bottom side, the Sierra Ventura thing.
The next block.
And I think on the Sierra Ventura one, it looks like you put in curved, painted curved ribbon, right? To try to make the cars so they're, yeah, so that's a good idea. I think the question I would have is paint gonna be enough for that? Especially the Sierra Ventura right-hand turn on the Stonehaven. I don't know that paint is gonna stop the cars from paint alone.
And you recommend doing this?
Yeah, I just feel like something's needed there to. If you want the cars to not cross that line, I think you need to give them something a little more physical. Yeah.
Okay, we'll put that under advisement.
Yeah, and then the part from the raised crosswalk by the tennis courts up to Kent on the one side, that's a really. Like, hard to walk place. I think maybe the people coming down Kent turning left on the Stonehaven maybe don't have full visibility. Cause you can see all the angles there. They don't have full visibility of who's there. And then I think the cars coming up, Stonehaven turning right on the Kent. Are gonna just move over, cause they're not gonna realize the pedestrian dedicated space now.
I understood the recommendation to look at a delineator, Stacy, for the Sierra Ventura turn onto Stonehaven.
Yeah.
Were you making a similar suggestion for Kent?
I don't know what the traffic engineers can come up with,
Yeah,
because I'm not an engineer. I mean, I asked, is there a pedestrian share-out, like, can there be pedestrian share-out? But I guess you could look at, that one there for Kent doesn't even have a curb return on that corner.
Yeah.
So maybe a curb, could be a curb return, delineators, pedestrian share-out. I don't know the engineering answer, I just know that I'm not the only one. A lot of people from the neighborhood, these two places are tough.
Kent appears to have. Kevin.
Yeah, I think Kent has a curb. Yeah, Kent has a curb and gutter. And so does, I think Stonehaven does right there too, at least on the upper side of the street.
So that,
Sierra Ventura right now is a yield, not a stop.
Mhm.
Have we considered making that a stop?
They're not. I mean, we're basically telling them to yield. They probably did that because the warrant didn't meet, anything else. So they probably left it at yield.
Well, if we're concerned about speeding through a yield,
Also, somebody coming from the left.
That's a
Oh,
big
so
hill.
This is. not getting that curve, you may not see them, not the two to the stop sign. So it's a good that point.
Stonehaven is or not Stonehaven, Sierra Ventura is a really big downhill. This is where you come from those high hills up by 280, like down really rapidly.
I understand it's still even, there's a curve there, and so good chance somebody might not slow down for their reason.
Well,
I like the idea of putting stop sign.
Well, we can't just arbitrarily put a stop sign, we gotta do a stop study.
Yeah.
Before we could put a stop sign there.
Good.
So, um,
It's like,
if it is also a situation where you're having a very steep hill, stop sign is gonna give it the wrong impression that it's safe to cross. And those cars are not gonna stop.
I think what I had asked for, it's considered asked for last time is on Stonehaven across Sierra Ventura is a crosswalk. It's like to tell the driver like, hey, I'm here because I am there.
Yeah.
Because the other side of the road isn't safe, like, cause I'll walk up past the school, cross on the raised crosswalk. Because that other side of the road up to Kent isn't safe, and then walk up to Sierra Ventura and keep going up Stonehaven. But then when I come back from the hills, I come down Kent, and then it's the issue at Kent, like what side of the road am I on? So I can get safely to the sidewalk, and I don't like to zigzag back and forth across the street there. Especially at night.
Okay.
And I know it's not just the elementary school kids, I know there's middle school kids that live up on Sierra Ventura. And they also, when they're coming back from middle school, they're also having issues here. It's like that raised crosswalk was designed for some Montclair kids to get from Windermere to the school, but it's how does the middle school kid come on St. Joseph on Stonehaven and get up to Sierra Ventura on their bike? Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
I think so.
Are we done with Stonehaven?
Do we have any public comment?
Okay, there's public comments. Well,
I'll do it whenever you're finished here.
Oh, yeah. You want to do it, you know. Yeah.
if, before we go to public comment, I need to add one more thing to the commissioner's consideration.
Okay.
One thing that we've been working behind the scenes for, restriping Grant from Fremont Grant all the way to Homestead to put in a bike lane. We were trying to figure out how to do that. The mayor has stated in public that this is something that we're gonna go ahead and install, so just wanna kind of, Art, do you have the plans?
So we'll have to look for it.
This is grant from St. Simon to Homestead or grant from Fremont to Homestead?
From St. Simon all the way to Homestead. So basically, one of the comments that I heard,
there's already bike lane there.
there's pseudo bike lane there. There's some location where there's gaps. And then there's no buffers. They try to create a buffer by putting a secondary line. But by doing that, it made the road, it made the bike lane narrower. Instead of standard 5 feet, it make it 3 feet. They actually use part of the bike lane as the buffer.
Perfect. And then there's also places where the bike lane includes the concrete curb.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a lot of places where, because I don't know if it's because it's near Foothill or because there's a lot of rocks in that bike lane. Yeah, and the roadway is really wide. You heard the Newcastle people talking about they don't use the crosswalk at Newcastle and Grant because the cars are going too fast on Grant coming on to Newcastle. The cars are going too fast on Grant frontage.
Yeah.
So this is great news.
So I have 50% plans, let me share that.
Hold on, let me just kind of show what is the existing.
You talking to the same side to the.
Yeah. Up to Fremont Road.
So you see how this bike lane is?
I'm going to hold the little from.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Are you talking about along Frontage Road,
Yeah.
along Foothill Expressway?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll show you the 50%. The Stevens Road on the.
so
So-
you're starting on St. Simon. So guys, I should probably recuse myself from them.
Okay.
Because I'm in the 500 feet.
Okay.
And that's too bad that I can't talk about stuff up on the other end of it.
So here's,
Was this part of the?
no,
Yeah. you-
No, no, I think we should have, how, can we talk about this, agendizing it?
We
This is
were
not on the agenda.
well, actually, it was part of the overall street.
annual street resurfacing project, although it's not something that's been publicized or is it even in the packet?
It's in the packet now.
Okay.
It was not in the, list location of projects.
Okay, so
Was
was
it in the 40?
It's not included in that.
So it's not-
Oh, you didn't include it?
Yeah.
It's not in the 49 pages.
So.
Was it-
yeah, I would-
Okay, then-
We can bring it,
Sorry,
we can bring it
I
next week.
still haven't walked out. I'm gonna say, when I looked at the packet this afternoon.
It's not
4
included, it's
o'clock,
not,
It's not in the packet.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can move it to.
Next week,
Okay.
for next week.
Yeah.
That's all right.
You don't need anything from us tonight, right?
No, then if that's the case, I'm just gonna do this as informational only.
Okay, that's fine.
Basically, we are gonna be working on, placing a bicycle lane on Grant. From here, St. Simon here, all the way to Homestead. So what we're doing is we're actually the reason why we're doing this is because. There are sections of the road where it's not true bike lane, they have actually used the bike lane to create a buffer, so. The bike lane itself is substandard, some sections are only 3 feet wide, there's some section that's 2 feet wide. Not to mention, you'll have section where there is a bike lane, and then there'll be a stretch where there isn't a bike lane. So what we're doing is we're actually going to narrow the road. From what I measured to be 12 foot wide, we're actually reducing it down to 11 feet. Let me just make sure.
Right now, there's sure some of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so what
Yeah,
we're,
yeah, we're not gonna discuss.
yeah, we're not discussing,
Yeah.
I'll just.
It's just informational.
Yeah.
So we're actually narrowing the road from a 12 foot wide to 11 feet. We're trying to create as much as we can of a 2 foot buffer. If we could have sections where it could be wider than 5 feet, we're trying to add that. But we're trying to be consistent in creating a bike lane from St. Simon all the way to Homestead. So this is one of the items that the mayor has stated that we are going to do this year. So that's the reason why we're accelerating it,
Is it only on one side?
both sides.
We still have chance, hold on, Tony, we still have a chance to agendize this for next week's meeting. If you guys wanna talk about it.
Yes.
All right, let's do that. Discussion item.
As soon as you send.
So like I said,
Yeah.
it's just strictly a discussion item at this point.
Yep, okay, great.
The information. Yeah.
When I want to discuss it.
Well.
It's information only.
Yeah,
Information.
let's do it. Let's talk next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay, it'll be on the agenda.
I didn't realize it wasn't on.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, don't worry. No, I appreciate you guys letting us know. Okay, cool. Is that everything? Oh, we have.
Oh, wait, no.
But, yeah, I think we covered.
Can't forget you, Dan.
This is the discussion item for tonight.
Before we get to public comment, I just have one question.
Yeah.
What, can you go and say, what was, just for public record, what was in the previous plan and what has been taken out?
There was nothing that was taken out.
Okay. Same streets.
Yeah, all the streets that was identified in our 4-year plan is still there.
No, not the 4-year plan. From the
20,
last
20,
meeting
yeah.
about the setup
I
of
think,
streets.
I think Suresh is right, because I saw Jim's email too.
I just wanna make.
The only thing that we did not talk about is streets that we're putting in kind, there was no comment from the commissioner last time. So
I
we
just
did
wanna
not.
make it clear.
No, understood, that doesn't.
We're not removing our streets. The reason why I'm trying to bring this up is, the perception is that, whatever was presented today is what's in there, what's for the work, plan for this year. That's not true.
No.
So there are some other things that are not in part of the packet that will get done this time.
Correct.
Yeah, so I just want you to clarify that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's clear.
No, we did
Because I
not
think-
take,
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, because the message that I think the public might have taken away is whatever's presented today is all we do.
Yeah,
we got you, that's fair. Yeah, so I just wanted you to clarify, give you a chance to clarify.
yeah, no, we have not reduced the list of all the streets that we're proposing.
You want to?
But the rest of the streets are just resurfacing and restriping, existing striping, is that fair to say, Stephen, or
Yeah, it's some sort of treatment on the road, and what, and we'll restrict.
Why don't we get some public comments?
Yeah,
on-
absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
of course, I'm Jim Wing in Milton Road. Lisa, I do want to follow up on this discussion because you saw my letter and that's how I read it. And then I had further communication said that all the streets are still in and they're still open for discussion. Now, last meeting, I brought up and challenged the design for University, El Monte, and Sheridan. Two things. One is the change in the intersection at El Monte. Now, at the last meeting, I said, you can't do that because basically what you're doing is you're reducing the right turn and the left turn lanes to one car each. And that's it, from the change you made. Now, keep in mind, during the peak PM hour, there are between about 125 to 150 cars that are traveling eastbound on University and hit this intersection. And basically about half turn left, about half turn right, and just a minor percentage go straight. And so therefore, there are backups. Now, what the cars now do is they kind of create their lanes by going slightly off the edge of the pavement. So therefore, the right turn lane, you can get at least 4 cars in there. Of course, the left turn, the common one, sometimes that backs up to around 10 cars or so. And keep in mind that the city of Los Altos does not control the signals, and therefore they're controlled by the county, and the county has priority for Miramonte. So therefore, the change you made there is going to increase that backup. And it's best to leave it alone. And remember, so the only true solution is to phase shift the lights there, which is beyond this scope of the project here. So I would just leave that alone, leave it as it is now, because we lived with it for all these years, and we continue to live with it. Now, the other one was the edge of the pavement, from say Milverton to about 180 feet towards going east on there. It's breaking away, and there needs to be a strong barrier there. And the only strong barrier that will work is the SU20 curve feature. You know, that is a solid barrier, will keep it from breaking away. And it also has a second curve to it to keep the magnolia tree roots from coming back underneath the pavement. And so that is a proper design. Looking for that. It's supported by Mike Romano anyway, and he said that's what would really work best. And so I encourage the design to include that as a solution to the edge of the pavement. Putting a tapered asphalt on there, it's just gonna break off. And by the way, the pavers have to be used. We just saw over in Lyell, because you can use compact granite fines, lasted 1 rainstorm. And then after 2 rainstorms, all the granite was washed down the street to the neighbors. Anyway, if you have high water flow, which this does, the granite doesn't work. And it was stabilized. It still didn't work. So therefore, it's the SU20 with pavers, and they do work. And it also solved the storm drain problem because there's a backup. The speed hump acts as a bump. Now, what is the good thing about it is the house at 706 University is going to be redeveloped, and the city planning staff has the opportunity to recapture the lost street right away. And it's all legal, they can do it, and where the property line truly is. So basically, I would like to have feedback somehow, somewhere, as to, are these 2 things going to happen? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jim. Right, I don't think we have any other,
Do we want to have the staff respond to all these things?
yeah, absolutely. Stephen, did you want to comment or on anything from Jim?
We will consider.
Thank you. I think we've covered everything for the special meeting tonight. great conversation from everybody, so I'm really appreciate everything again. I think with that, we can adjourn, let's, I guess, yeah, maybe I'll ask, yeah.
Just so on record, I did get a card for today's meeting.
Yeah, great, wonderful.
Okay, so it does say, you know, there's servicing, but then if you read the whole thing, it does say striking and signage in there, so if you read the whole thing, it was,
Yeah.
just so you know.
Yep. Appreciate that, should make it tough. Okay, does anyone have anything else? Okay, thanks for everyone's patience tonight, and, we can adjourn. See you next week. 8:47? 8:47.